Welcome, welcome, welcome in, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I can't believe finally have made it. This is actually my first live stream in a long time. I think it's my first live stream by myself, but this is the first one for 2025. We know that for sure. And today, Linkin Park fans and Chronicans, we are doing two interview reactions. We're doing the Mike Shinoda and Emily Armstrong new album From Zero, Chester Bennington topics. Then we're jumping to the Mike Shinoda on creating and reinventing Linkin Park, plus his creative evolution. I'm really excited for both of these ones. They're very intriguing. I've been listening to From Zero, honestly, probably daily now. So that's just been super incredible. And if you guys liked that relaxing piano versions of the Linkin Park songs there, check out this guy, Juan L. Taiza, incredible. I was really happy to find that for the intro for this stream here, and I hope all of you are doing well if you are here live and or if you are here on your own time, because if you're a Linkin Park fan, you should be here, and if you're having a great day, you might as well be here too, because we're having a good time. And it looks like there are some of you here, so please let me know where you're from in the comments below and how you guys have enjoyed From Zero so far as well. Have you seen my reaction to the From Zero album? If you guys had, please let me know what you guys thought about that, and what is your favorite song from Zero? Especially if it's not one of the singles. What song stood out the most for you guys? All right, so definitely grab your drinks, grab some snacks, do whatever you got to do. Buckle in, because this will be a long one, y'all. And again, thank you all for being here. And let's start her off right away, because this is going to be a long go. This is about an hour 15 for the first interview, and then 47 minutes on the other. So 2 hours here just with interviews. So we'll start right away. Never seen Zach sing.
I think it's been, it's been a long time coming. 20 years of work.
Wait. Polgy the Lamp Hunter, you're the #1 listener of From Zero on Stats FM, Spotify Stats website. So that's how much I've enjoyed From Zero. The Emptiness Machine and Two Face are your favorite too. Wow. Okay. Well, we're here with one of the biggest Linkin Park fans to date right now. So that is really cool. Incredible. That's a lot of listening. And I can tell you, I have not listened to it as much as you. But wow, here we go. Let's go with that.
And they finally got a shot. the right hoodie, the right jacket or whatever, and the headphones.
Do you find yourself fighting things like that are basic, quote unquote, famous person in a band type person necessity, styling?
I love that you're leading. You know, I don't know you well, but we know each other just enough that you know that how ridiculous that is. Right? You know that I'm so not that person.
Yeah.
I will roll it. I do not give a shit to roll into an interview in my pajamas. I'm really actually fine with that.
It's my fault.
So
yes, it's weird. It elevates everyone.
No, I don't agree, because when somebody
I get makeup, you have to have something.
I have to get that's part of it is okay, so we had this whole conversation about this. I think before the
first off, the Zach Sang guy seems awesome already. I love the environment. It just starts right off the bat. They're talking not even about music. They're just talking about other things. And I think that's a really cool way to make it such a casual feel.
First, what was the first? Did we do the video first or the photo? So the album first. Which one came first? Was it Emptiness Machine or was it the photo shoot?
The photo shoot.
And they talked about, you're gonna, this is kind of the setup of what we're gonna look like, and we've worked with James, mentioned a million times. James is gonna shoot it, and then we started getting into makeup and stuff, which bands don't want you to know, but they all get a little something, just to cover up the pimples or the sleep under your eye, or bags under your eye. But it's usually really almost nothing. And so I was saying to Em,
This
Oh,
is an
we need like
adjustment.
proper hair and makeup now. Like, how long do you take to do hair and makeup? I don't know what you said.
Well, like live, I do my own, obviously. Like
Right.
when we're on the
She does
road
her own
and stuff.
good
But it's just
stuff.
like times where it's like being filmed. I'm just like,
It's good to do a little
in the morning.
because because it's like cameras and stuff.
They add something, dude.
They do, and they're like it's super high fidelity, and they're
Oh, yeah.
seeing everything.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
nice to get a little something. I'm speaking for her,
Yes.
and because for me,
I don't wear any makeup. Look how good I'm looking.
I was like,
You're-
no.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I'm like, oh, she's gonna like look great. She's gonna have like proper makeup done, and if I'm not, then all of a sudden I look like crazy.
Yeah. So everybody's got
Very true.
I don't want to
Game
look
on.
come
Sorry.
in like looking like. Wait, can I say? Can I
Frodo?
say unhoused? Like, yeah, like,
Looking like Frodo.
Well, you look very housed.
thank you, thank you.
By the way, hi, beautiful human. I'm Zach. That's Dan.
Hi.
That's Mike and Emily are here. Linkin Park.
So,
Hey,
Very
you go.
housed.
very,
Very housed.
I like that as a compliment. Like, you're looking so housed today.
Put together, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you know,
I mean, these
kept.
studios too.
Looks like you
very
have a roof
housed.
over your head. Yeah.
Honestly, the
Very
studios
housed.
over time
I've
have been
never used
nicer,
that
and
phrase.
you came to one of our nicest studios ever. The first time we ever met was you.
That room was crazy.
Like the one right down, the last one at Amazon you came to, and then you came right down the street one time, the brick wall. Maybe you remember it. It was literally in Culver City.
yeah.
Long,
yeah.
long time
Did you
ago.
like that room?
I did. It was bigger.
Yeah.
Had depth to it.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know. We're gonna have a new studio the next time you guys come.
I don't
so.
remember it well, but I'm also like I've done enough interviews just in all kinds of different spaces that
Yeah.
I don't have an opinion. I don't go in like critiquing the decor.
Right.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
care.
No, I
I
get
don't
it.
care. It's about the content, not about the.
I do.
Yes.
I look forward to your
Emily
detailed
cares.
review after this, please, and thank you.
Oh
You're
my
welcome.
God, I
I'm
love
so
it.
excited to have you guys here.
I think it's really cool that they have chemistry already. I've seen mostly interviews right now with Linkin Park with people they've already had interviews with and that they know. So that familiarity really makes these interviews a lot more fun, I would say, too. And what a contrast Emily and Mike really are. Emily is so much more to the point and she doesn't care what you think. Mike kind of is a bit more PR and like is more housed, you know? That's so good.
Even
I'm
out-
excited for you to have us here.
He's very excited.
Can we just talk? Like, this is a fun energy.
Yeah.
How'd you all meet?
How did we
Do we,
meet?
do we tell the
Yeah.
truth?
I
Yes,
mean,
you do.
I think.
Emily, tell the truth.
Yeah.
Tell the
Well,
truth.
I mean, here's my version of it was that I believe it was actually our drummer Rob, but it could have been somebody else because I think a couple different people said that you should meet Emily. That she's not horrible, and I think you would get along. And it wasn't through. I don't
love
think it was
Emily's
really
dry
at the
humor,
time. I don't
too.
think it was through the lens of you should meet her because I think she could be like the singer for Linkin Park. It was more just like she's cool. She's a great singer. And oh yeah, at the time it was when you reached out, it was around the time of that
Yeah. For the Hollywood Bowl.
benefit,
The
yeah,
benefit show.
the celebration of life, the
For
Chester
Chester.
show.
Oh,
And
wow.
I got a little, like, I was like, oh, I'd really like
Really?
to do that. And I was being vocal with friends and stuff. And they're like, why don't you ask? And I was like,
Oh, wow.
oh, right. I mean, but like, okay, they've got everybody. I was like, who the fuck? Why would they want me? But I asked, but it was a little too late. And they got, somebody got word of it at some point. But it was
Yeah.
just like, yeah, we already have it all.
I almost and when she had,
really
Em had
wanted to
told me
do
that
it.
later, and I was like, at first I was like, I don't remember that at all.
That's why you gotta
And then
speak
something
it
jogged
out,
my memory
because
that
you never know what you
we were
want.
like literally, it was like the week of or something. Like we
Yeah.
were already rehearsing all the songs. So we were just like had so much on our plates to like get that show together that we didn't want to mess with what we were working with that, which actually in retrospect was lucky. I think it was lucky that
Yeah.
it didn't work out that way because by not having Emily present in that kind of space, that later when we got together and started making new things and getting to know each other and stuff, I think it was more of a blank slate.
From
Can
zero.
we talk about the
You
first
can't-
session?
You can't even say a blank slate. You gotta say from zero, man.
Like, what was it like when you actually started creating music together? Like, I mean, do you remember the first session?
Yeah.
Because it started pre-COVID, right?
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
2019.
Okay. What? 2019?
I think it was you reached out because a couple people were like, "Hey,"
No
you were like,
way.
I
They've been going since pre-COVID together. Wow. That's something I never really knew.
need to meet her.
She's got
hang out."
so many friends. she's like a Kevin Bacon. No, what is that?
Very
Is that right?
diverse.
6 degrees?
Yeah, it's 6 degrees
It's like,
from.
it's like 3 degrees of Emily Armstrong.
To be fair, you are also, I mean, you're on hiatus now, but like, dude, Dead Sarah is incredible.
Thank you.
And your performance style and like
Sarah is incredible.
the genre of music, there is alignment here. And also like
Absolutely.
your presence is, yeah, it's really infectious.
Thank you.
And you've been writing songs since you were 15, right? Or 11 or super young?
Younger, yeah. But in the band around 15, I think she was 15 and I was like 17
This
when we
guy
started.
did his homework.
And you had also been signed to Warner, so like there is like a lot
Yeah.
of universe and connective tissue
you
that
have no idea.
You
exists.
connected with
The
Warner
amount
as well.
of like serendipitous moments
Wow.
were.
Serendipitous.
It's
I love
like
that word.
I should have written every one of them down, but they've just continued to happen. It still continues to happen
Wow,
in like
eh?
the most, like the smallest detail to like the big, like what you're talking about, like with the Warner, the more obvious ones. But then
Right.
there's like the ones that are like the under, like
It's
the things
meant
that
to
I
be.
would only notice, things that I took snapshots of, and then somehow it's just aligned in this way for I think both, like for this band, where they were and then where I was, and then how our paths just like slowly but surely kind of really just came together. It wasn't like a combustion, or it wasn't like a hey, like maybe like trying to get somebody to do something. It was just like this nice, slow coming togethers of like universes, and
Do you-
it just became,
One.
Do you remember your first interaction with Linkin Park's music?
of course.
Wow, yeah.
I
Hybrid
mean,
theory.
hybrid theory.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One step closer was like everything, that scream
wasn't it?
in like, or not scream, but like, shut up when I'm talking to you. That was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I found my
That's the one.
I wouldn't say motto, but what is it, like my like this
Your
is
anthem?
what like my angst as a preteen or a teen. I was maybe 12,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is
Really?
it.
How
This
old
is
is Emily?
fucking it.
Wait, I want to just see real quick. How old is Emily? Oh, she's 38. Okay. And I am 32. Wow, okay. She's younger than I thought even too. That's amazing.
Like, and then of course I
I was like
I was
10 when
so
it came out, or
obsessed
even
with that
younger.
album, and
Yeah,
I
like
was starting a
8.
band at the time, and I was in a band, and I was like, this is what I want to do.
Thanks,
this
Polka. I'm
is
sure you're
this
gonna
is how I
show
want
me.
to sing. I've like,
could ask
I was like, he
anything,
could
you
sing
know
and
it.
scream. Like, yeah, cool. And I didn't realize later that it's like, yeah, a lot of people can't do that.
It's an art form.
Yeah, but I've learned like at that stage in my life, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So it was like I practiced and learned on my own by listening to people like Linkin Park, you know what I mean? And learned and was in a band, and obviously trying every kind of genre for many, many, many years. But that album was everything.
Sure.
At what point do you like? No, I have chills because it is. It's like this really
That's who you want to.
this thing that like something that's had so much influence on you as a human being now becomes something that you have this honor. And I mean, dude, like it is a weight, it's a responsibility, it's a bunch of things, and but like, just a testament to what you've created, right? And
Well, I always,
But all of you
I
created.
also like, just to add on, like Emily. Well, we looked at it like we know that there's that idea of like, it's important. Like the singer of this band is an important role that
extremely important.
if we were to keep going, we'd have to like solve. Try and make it not so heavy on ourselves. I would call it like a math problem, like because that to me it takes the emotion out of it a little bit. It makes it feel doable, and I'd be like, yeah, we don't have the math. Like years ago, the math didn't work out. We didn't have the things we would need in order to keep going. So the idea was, you got to figure out the equation. Like, what do we need? And it turns out, among other things, at least the stuff that's tangible, like the things that I can point my finger at and say that's important, is like, obviously the talent, Emily's like talent as a vocalist, versatility. But there's also like the emotional aspect, like when she sings, do you feel like it's just like pouring out of her soul? Like, because that is such a thing. It's such an important part of the band's sound, is having somebody who emotes that way, that it doesn't feel performative. And then most importantly, what most people don't even think about is, do we all get along really well, and do we like want to spend time together? Because we're going to be spending a bunch of time together in the studio and then getting on the road and so on and so forth. And when friends of mine ask now, they're like, how's everything been going? Like, now you've been on the road together, you've done all these shows, and you're really getting into the thick of it. How is everything going? And these are friends that I can like say anything to. I could tell them if it sucked. Right. And I was like, yeah, one of the best things I notice is that, like, we'll be done with the rehearsal. Let's say it's like, I don't know, it's like 4:30. Rehearsal ended at like 4, and we're still just like hanging out. Like, we'll just sit around and hang out. Very cool. And I not even notice to me, it's like, I don't even notice we're there. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I got to go home. Like, we've been just sitting around and talking.
It's always the one person that's like, oh shit, I got to go.
Yeah, somebody.
And then it kind of breaks up the party a little bit.
Right. But I feel like that's like, if not for that, we would totally just like sit around and hang out forever. Yeah. Which is that's such a good sign, so right? Like,
that's
really nice.
Absolutely.
Well, you want to be vulnerable and create, and also like pave this path with people that you want to be around.
Yeah.
Like, being in a band is very much like having an extension of your family. Mm-hmm. You have to spend the most time with one another.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to be there with the Linkin Park Underground at the World Tour for them. If you guys are going to Linkin Park's World Tour, please let me know. Alana and I and Avery, we're going to be going to the Vancouver edition of their tour, which is in September. I think it's like September 20th sometime there. So we're looking very forward to that, and the energy that they're just providing here. They're giving people chills and smiles. Those two things are my favorite. That's why I've always loved Linkin Park. Chills and smiles.
You should enjoy it.
Yeah. Bands are like, these days, so most artists that you see, like if you look at your stuff that you're listening to on, your little playlist or whatever, I started to think like solo artist, duet, like this is 2 people, this is 3 people. And then beyond that, like bands, at least in my playlist of like modern music, bands are really rare these days, like that are coming out now. And I think that part of it is because it's hard. It's harder. The more people you put into that equation, the more like chances for like just differing opinions about things. Not even the personal stuff. Not even like, oh, we got to fight about a thing. It's more like, oh, I think the band should be like this, or I think the sound should be like this, or I think we should look like this on stage. Mm-hmm. And when you've got more people, then you've got more people pulling in different directions potentially. So it's pretty special to have, in our case, 6 people who are all pointed in generally the same, or at least a really similar direction.
It's true. Like, art is subjective. One's career vision for themselves is personal, so for it all to align is
oh yeah. And I love being in a band. I mean, again, we were talking about Dead Sarah. I was in Dead Sarah for 20 years,
Wow.
Like, I love it.
You get it.
Yeah. And it's a lot of,
interpersonal and professional relationships.
Yeah. But it's like, the purpose there is so much greater, and what we love to do.
It's
easy to kind of talk about, what we need to just to get along, and
wow,
as long as you have that,
that's going to be amazing,
that purpose there, or like, what you're doing, or like, it's about the music. It's about, there's something there. There's a connection. It's quite easy, And I'm always pushing people to be in bands, and I have been forever. And I'm always like high-fiving people, like, just started a band. I'm like, fuck yeah! If there's anything I could do to help, it's like, it's the greatest. It's the greatest reward when it works.
Wow.
You mentioned, Mike, this idea of having to tackle this whole thing like a math problem, because the only way to do that is by putting emotions aside.
Yeah.
Very
like,
smart.
is that like a part of grieving, or what? Like, what is that?
Grieving,
I don't think. I think that I just.
Good question.
You know, for me, like defining things certain way, like words matter, right? Like I choose words that, like when we're writing lyrics, like every little detail is important. And for me, like, you know, when I call it a math problem, I think that's just like a self-defense mechanism so that it doesn't feel as like scary.
Totally. Because emotions
math is finite, like, right? So,
Polga, you're saying that Dead Star was founded in 2005. Okay, there you go. She's been going. She definitely got influenced by Linkin Park, and then after Meteora, she's like, I'm starting a band.
So that's very doable to me. And as we were like getting through it, I think like M was saying, you know, it came into focus really gradually and really organically. It didn't like just, we didn't go, all right, starting today, we're going to reform the band. Starting today, we're going to find a singer. Like that's
too forced.
Leaving your apartment and saying, starting tonight, I'm going to find a spouse. It's just like, you're going to do what? That's a crazy thing to do. Don't do that. Like, why don't you go out and like see who's out there and hang out with some people and meet somebody and see if you get along. Like, that's way better. And by the way, I think I'm riffing off of this because this was actually our bass player Dave's kind of he said that at one point, like he made that analogy.
Wow.
He described that analogy, and I just thought that was so funny and so real that
so real.
Yeah, you don't like keep the pressure off yourself a little bit, and like we'll just make music,
yeah, exactly,
and we'll meet people, and eventually, if it's meant to be, like we'll connect with those things. We'll connect with the right music. We'll connect with the right people, and we'll figure it out.
So in 2000,
you know, that's really, really smart from Mike there, and I think I'm even going to take that as a parent, because too often, as he's explaining there, you can set a goal for yourself that you maybe want that is just so obnoxious if you go and try to just achieve it, like walking out of your house and saying, I want a spouse right now, I'm going to go find a spouse. I just remember the pressure I put on my son Avery when I was saying you should go get a girlfriend or something like that. Even friends, sometimes when you move, and the pressure to go get a new friend, you can't just say I'm going to go get a friend or I'm going to go get a relationship in that way, where they're saying, how about go find people that you actually connect with and have a good time with first, and then see what comes from that. So I love their approach, and again, M and Mike think so differently, but yet they are so the same. And Eminem is one of my favorite candies too.
2019, when you guys started working together, were those Linkin Park sessions, or what were you working on then?
No. It was just like, I think the first thing we worked on was something I already had, right? I think it was one song that I already had, and then we did another day where we just made something from scratch. And I liked, right?
Yeah.
Did we do 3 days, or was it just the 2?
I think it was 2.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And it was my old studio.
Yeah.
And they're good. Like I like those tracks. They weren't like right for this record. But maybe someday people will hear them. I don't know.
Cool.
It wasn't until we came back and started writing again. It was like,
so many years.
It changed a lot.
The songs that you'll hear on the album. Like it was just like something clicked. Like I was ready, and I think they were ready. Like whether we knew it or not. It was just let the music kind of speak, and just being like, whatever's going to happen from this, it's going to be cool.
How'd you know?
Well, I was a little more like I was a little more of a believer earlier because I spent the most time with Emily, so I was like, yeah, she's good. She's like, in all of the things I just described earlier, like, she's good. And I think the guys are going to like her, but I don't want to be pushy about it. Like, I want to just, like, present what I think I know and let them react. And so we just started doing some sessions, and I played them. I even made them like a little very short Dead Sarah playlist.
A little medley.
It was only like 5 or 6 songs. Because I was like, if I had sent them an album and asked them to pick through that, I was like, that's just
forget it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they might, but it's like there's something less intimidating about like, no, like here's like an EP that I put together. But it was specific to like it's specific to like these are songs that I know have a connection to our songs that if you hear these and then you start thinking about One Step Closer and Waiting for the End and different songs with different that require a different kind of singing, all of the variety of the band, you're going to listen to this and go, I could see that. Maybe that does work. And so I started just giving them different pieces and saying, am I crazy or is this like cool? You know, and
I want to know what songs those are.
I can show you.
I think I still have a playlist. I think I still have a playlist.
Oh my god! Wait, who else does that? When you want to show people a band or an artist that you love, you curate your own EP for them to see like the 5 to 10 best songs. Usually 5 is more an EP, but I think that's just so cool that he did that for the Linkin Park band itself to show how perfect transition this would be if Emily does come, and you could just see the versatility in what she was going to be able to bring. And I like that Mike was a believer from the beginning, because as soon as you see them together, you just know when they met each other, they had to have had those sparks going, even if they didn't know it was going to happen. I bet that want was there from the beginning.
And then one big turning point, like there are checkpoints.
Oh wow!
Where it was like, this conversation just took a step up, and one of the big ones was kind of out of nowhere. Joe, we were sitting there talking about the new music that we were writing, and we had like over a dozen songs at that point that we liked, and M had sung, I think, lead on one or two, like a part, like a chorus on one or two of them, and sung backgrounds on a couple, and that was it at that point. And Joe said, it was just me and Joe and Dave, and Joe was like, do you think Emily would just sing? Could we just have her sing all of the stuff? And he wasn't like being silly. He was like serious. He's like, do you think we could demo like her voice as the lead, like on certain songs, like just her on the whole song, just to hear what that sounds like? And I heard him say that. I was like, this dude's a believer.
He's a believer.
Because she's going to do, I know she'll be down to do it. I know he's going to hear it and he's going to like it. I'm positive.
Hey, honey. First of all, Artisan Creations, go check out Alana's new art adventure that she has going on there. She has incredible necklaces that you can see and buy from her shop, I believe, right now, too, already. And I think that's awesome that she's coming to say hi. And we definitely got to go see that Spotify playlist.
So then I was like, okay, this is the fact that he came to that conclusion before even I suggested anything was like really, that was a big deal.
How are you taking those songs on and embodying them and bringing them to life and feeling them fully in a way that seems like...
Great listener.
You talking about the new stuff?
I mean, yeah, new stuff.
Yeah.
Well, old stuff too, but new stuff first.
Yeah, I mean, there was some of the demo, like most of them were demos. Some of them were completely done. And I think more of the demo, they all have different kind of, every song has its own emotion and everything going on that you kind of have to just adapt to or try and figure out or make it your own, right? Yeah. So it's, and I've never been in a situation where it's like, here are the songs pretty much done. And I'm like, that's great. Like for me, I'm like, that's awesome. Because it's like, I don't know, like, and he's such a good writer. And so it's Mike's like, yes. So that's already like the easy part where I'm like, awesome. I'm going to sing songs. Absolutely. And I'm going to do my best to try and, you know, like he was saying, put the emotion in it. Put what does the listener want to hear? How do I bring these lyrics to life in a way? And we were getting to know each other, him as a producer and pushing me in ways that I loved, you know, that I was never, or if I ever did have the chance to do that with great writers and producers, I learned a lot. So this was like, I was in that seat like every day. And I was just like, okay, so you find a rhythm in that, and you find, you know, the flow of it, and taking, you know, suggestions and some things, and just, and you get into this whole world of it, you know, and you get lost in like in the different songs, and in a great way, you know. You want to get there, you want to be in that place, and you feel safe. And
what an elaborate answer.
I always want to do the best I possibly can, and sometimes I don't know what that is. Sometimes I think it's like in a completely different direction, and I'm getting frustrated. And then he's just like, Emily, like, here, just take a 10-minute break, come back, don't think at all, and just sing it, you know. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then it sounds fine.
I think that part's common.
Yeah.
A lot of singers will get in their head.
Mike probably knows how to go through that. And something I want to just talk about with this, I've never experienced this in real time with a band that I love so much, with having a different singer take on the band and then getting to hear some of the classics from that band, like with Emily transitioning from Chester. I've experienced that now with Nightwish, and getting to hear songs from Tarja, Annette, and Floor, and hearing Floor specifically doing all the songs from previous, and how they put their own spin and uniqueness to it, and just what type of a journey that is emotionally, even hearing the different singers sing the song. So now getting to experience this live with Emily doing this, and getting to see even the band having these moments and becoming believers, because we all, that first live stream when seeing the From Zero, there was a lot of doubt that I heard in the comments there when she first started singing their own content. But then once she got into some of the classics of Linkin Park, and everyone started hearing what she was really going to bring to even those songs that everyone has grown to love, it's so happy. And I know there's other bands that have done it, like AC/DC, where there's someone died and there was a different singer. But again, I can't think of any band that has changed a singer like this and has worked so well. And I'm just so happy that it's worked for Linkin Park.
Yeah, they'll get in their head about a thing, because they've when you're recording, you're repeating a part over and over, right? And so that can
over each other.
It could be a little like mind numbing. Your brain gets lost in the repetition of it, and you don't know which version of the performance is good or bad at that point. So that's super common. Yeah, I'm used to dealing with that with anybody who's like vocal I've produced, and I get it myself too when I sing sometimes. But specifically, like, I remember when we were working on Over Each Other is
Each Other. Still my favorite.
That's a song that just came out, actually. And it's beautiful. One of the first ones where I remember I told you, Joe said, let's have Am sing the whole song. So that song we had written, we knew it was good. We loved the track. We loved the lyrics and the melody. And we took the track, we pitched it so that it was better for her range, her vocal range. We had to pitch it higher, because I was singing it originally. So
wow,
pitched it up and got the track in good shape, and then had Emily sing it down. And as she was going, we played around with some new, like, we changed the melodies a little bit in a couple spots, just because she was singing these other things that sounded cool. And that's, to me, when she was talking about just now getting lost, like in the process in a good way, you're so when you're doing that, you're at a point for me, a point in the process where the song is already so good, and you've like, almost like there's this intangible, like, spiritual connection between you and the song, and you're talking to each other, and it's telling you what it wants. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. I know that sounds like some woo-woo, like, crazy stuff.
It's real.
But I believe, but I feel that way when I'm working on a song that I know is a standout. Like, there's something special about the song. I feel connected to it, and I feel like I can almost hear it asking for, I'll hear melodies, or and she was doing that, where she would, instead of singing the thing she was supposed to sing, she'd sing a different thing slightly, and we'd be like, oh, that's better. That is better. Let's do that. That's the new part now. Let's try some things like that. So as we got through that process and arrived at the version that you hear on the album now that's out today, the
gives me the waterworks. Oh my God. I've never had a song destroy me so badly compared to Over Each Other, and the music video that comes with it. And look at Emily just smiling like, yep, that's a gooder. I did that one. That's why I love my job. She's so fun. I love her personality. Look at that smile.
The final version of Over Each Other is a like a result of all of that,
I'm glad you never had any
exploration and us figuring it out together. And by the way, also Emily singing a thing that the band then went, oh yeah, I think she's really good. Like she might be our singer.
A lot of this album from Zero, which is, it's incredible.
Thank you.
Right?
It's so good.
Yeah.
She's good. She's very good.
Calm down. Calm down.
The stories.
She's really good at taking a compliment.
Calm down.
Loves compliments.
I got to say, brother, the stories you're telling in every song are so vivid.
Oh, cool.
So vivid, and they come to life, and you feel it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like you feel this weird understanding, but it's like, oh, it's great. It's like it's fantastic. Is it about like? It gives like stories of different relationships or one consistent relationship.
I don't know where on this record, I was really trying to think about like where the lyrics were coming from, because I did lead. Well, I think I led the lyric process in a similar way to the album's mid-career and earlier.
Over Each Other is
as we got
my favorite song.
towards like One More Light we had more co-writers
It Needs More
in
Love.
the room, but prior to that, it was really just me and Chester, and he loved for me to suggest him lyrics. So a lot of that was like either me drawing from my personal experience or me knowing his experience so well that I was trying to help him tell his story, if that makes sense.
100%.
So he had all the good stories, and he had all these like really intense emotions.
He sure did.
And he'd say them to me, and I'd jot down stuff and like go, what about this? What about that? Like, is this how you felt? Is this a right lyric? And, oh, yeah. And then he'd riff off that, and we'd go back and forth. So we got into some of that, like towards the end of the process. I think we started to develop more of that, got to know each other better.
Mike, what a producer and
to be
friend.
honest, like, I don't know. We were so deep in it that I don't know what the lyrics are about. Like, I know what they're about. I do know where I was drawing from and like what we were talking about in the room. But I'm still, I think maybe for the best, they're not so concrete. Like they're a little loose in terms of
That's
like.
me. It's me. That's why.
Yeah, it's just like.
It's my influence.
It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be like
concrete, black
super.
and white.
Country music can be that a lot of times, for better and worse, where it's like, this is the story. This is the exact story I'm telling you. There's only one version of it, and this is how it goes. And our music, like if you go all the way back to Hybrid Theory, it's a you and me, and it's a core nucleus of a emotion, but like you might think it's about you and your mom, you might think it's about a girlfriend, someone else might think it's about some other thing, right? And that's what I like about the new record, is it has this a little bit of like a good ambiguity to it.
Yes.
It's not coming from an ambiguous place, it's coming from a very specific place, but the way it reads is different.
That's the
How
best
much of
form of art.
How much of these songs are done?
When art has a specific purpose, but then can be interpreted to create meaning for others when they need it. That's why it's medicine. I really do think From Zero is medicine for people. Most of Linkin Park's music has been medicine for people too, but since we're talking about From Zero and what they've done specifically since Emily has joined, wow, it's just hearing all the stories of how organic and how much they needed each other without even knowing it too. I just love that Emily wants to even support any band that is starting fresh too. I know what that feels like now that Alana and I are interviewing bands that are just starting, even that are local to our place too, and seeing that fire in their eyes when it is going well, and sometimes the pain when it's not going that well. It's a lot, so you got to put your heart and soul into this stuff, and they sure have.
Before you bring them to people, or are you just writing everything together?
It's a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
How about the
So Emptiness Machine was a demo that I think 80-90% of that, I did it, I sang it, it was done. I played it for people just like 2 plus years ago, and they were like, "That's good," but the reaction, this actually surprised. Like, this was something I thought of this week. I was like, "Oh wow, I actually played a demo of that with my voice on it, and the music was very almost the same."
Really?
I think the drums were not. The drums might have been like a plug-in and not live drums, but I remember playing it for them, and they're like, "Oh, that one's good. That's good." And the reaction was not, "Holy crap, this is going to be one of the biggest songs of your career."
Yeah.
It was not. And there were smart people who they pick hits in the room, and they were like, "Oh, that's good." And so I know because of that, I was realizing, once we decided to put Emily on it, like we reconfigured it so that the second verse happens and she is introduced, and that's a moment. And we shaped the song to make the best of that. It was like, that was actually, decisions like that can make such a big difference.
I agree.
But like, you get into this whole, like, I know I'm on such a tangent.
No.
You said, you were talking
Keep going, Mike.
who wrote a thing, right? The thing that I wrote was like, let's say 80 to 90%, just to throw a number on it, similar to the thing you hear on the record. Almost all the lyrics were there. Brad and I did a rewrite later, so he gets, credit-wise, think of like Brad gets some credit for doing that lyric rewrite with me.
Right.
And then there was the other decision to put Emily in verse 2, have her go all the way to the chorus, and it switches back to me for the beginning of the bridge, and then we kind of take it out through the bridge together, and she finishes the song with a big chorus. That decision was a 5-minute decision, like, let's do it this way. And then we did it, executed it, and it made the song go from that's good to, holy shit, this is one of the biggest songs you've ever written.
And it is, right?
It's like one little 5-minute conversation can mean that much of a difference.
Gave up who I
And we were literally just talking about how Over Each Other was kind of getting overlooked a little bit because Mike wasn't even in there, and that decision that was made to not have him even be singing it when he used to be singing the whole song. And for now, the Emptiness Machine, that was like 2 years before it came out, just came out, everyone's like, whatever. And then you get M to come in on that second verse, and then, oh my God, it's so true. Because once she comes in, and it's like, oh, this is what you're bringing? This is the life that you're going to give to us again? Because really, Emily's voice brings life. And I think that's what Mike was saying you have to look for in this math equation. If we're going to bring another singer in, they got to have talent, versatility, and all this other stuff. But are they making you come to life? And I think she does.
I am for who you wanted me to be. Dude, the lyrics are incredible. It sounds like you're talking about the industry.
I'm not, but I've had people
Wait, so Polky just said the Emptiness Machine really became one of the biggest hits of Linkin Park's existence. It's probably going to become top 10 most streamed Linkin Park songs in history in like 160 days. And it's only been out since September. Yeah, I mean, it's what starts the album too. And I really do think it's that big of a game changer. It made me come back to Linkin Park, and I was a diehard at the beginning, but then time put me away in bad choices, I guess. And now that we're back, there's so much Linkin Park to still check out that I haven't even seen, and the Emptiness Machine's the reason for that now.
Emptiness Machine and Heavy as the Crown. We've had people
Bangers.
Put their own like lyrical, like they say, I think the song is about this, and I think that's cool. I don't know. We've never talked about this. Like,
what is it about?
Do you feel like when people would talk about Dead Sarah lyrics, like historically for you, when people talk about like what are the lyrics, do you like to like tell them exactly? Do you like to like let them figure it out on their own, like do their own thing with it? Does it matter? What do you think?
It's very ambiguous, my lyrics, and that's what I was talking about. It's like, it was my doing. Just
you're
like,
more of the like Rick Rubin approach of like, it can be a little intuitive.
So when people are like, oh my God, I love the lyrics, I'm like, tell me why.
Yeah.
And so I want to see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And so that's usually, and then I'll be like, oh, what inspired it was this, and it turned out to be this. That's usually the case.
Yeah.
There's some songs where I'm like, yes, I had a full story from beginning to end, which I understand, and a lot was just like, this sounds cool, I'm going to put it in.
Right. Yeah.
But even the stuff that sounds cool, just it has a purpose to
Absolutely.
the overall, whether it's a story of the song or.
She is such a creative mindset. There's some people that can't even think about that open-endedness of that ambiguity, and they need black and white. I'm someone that leans towards the conservative side in my mind thinking too, so I would need meaning with basically all my lyrics, not just so it sounds cool, but you need those moments of lyrics just sounding cool, because that's what literally ad-libs are, and that's why we love it. Like, that's what she does really good for me, in my opinion.
Or the story of the album, like it serves some purpose.
Yeah.
To something.
I mean,
I love that kind of
Hendrix, Chili Peppers,
you gotta
some of like
Nirvana for sure.
Some Bjork, Nirvana. Like, there's so many great examples of things that are like, first and foremost, it sounds cool.
Yeah.
The lyrics are a mystery.
Yeah.
Maybe even to the singer, but it sounds great. I want to sing it. I don't know what it means.
Yeah.
You know what these songs mean, though.
Well, I know where they came from.
know where they
for me,
came
Emptiness
from.
Machine is not about a person.
Right.
It's more about a thing that is like, it's like an abusive relationship with something that's like just sucking the life out of you. Right? That's, to me, if you read the lyrics on paper,
totally.
it's really that. And I could, I'll stop there, because I do like the idea. Right now, I'm in a
I'm not going to tell you.
a period of time where I like the idea that I don't want to talk about it too much, because I like people having their own.
I noticed that, so I never talked about it. And everyone's like, he's never going there. I'm like, I'm not going to.
We talked to somebody. We did one of the interviews, and they were like, it's about this, right? I was like, I love that for you.
You're like,
Like,
Yeah.
that's a great concept.
And I was like, okay,
But-
noted.
Art is meant to be up to the person, right?
And that was the one with Zach Lowe or something like that, from Apple Music, and I definitely remember that moment. And I think y'all, if you've seen that interview, I think it was the first one they had. I definitely remember that, and that interpretation. You can see that. I never thought of artists who would want to let that interpretation be open so that everyone can have that think tank conversation, and then you can kind of hold the keys and the secrets to yourself, and you even could see the interviewers like, but you do know there's meaning to it. It's like, well, yeah, I know where it came from. I love Mike's approach too.
Right? Like everything is different. It's based on like experience, perception,
Staying
who I am
low
as a
in
human
the-
being, and hopefully like a song can find common ground and mutual
Totally.
understanding between the person listening to it and the human being who created it.
Oh, this is as if you speak to musicians all the time, and you know these core fundamental truths.
But
I think that's a true thing, what you said.
100%. And by the way, keeping it general and vague may be like what the universe beamed down to you and intended to come out. But in doing that, like,
I should be so lucky.
makes it the most relatable. Do you not feel that in any way that, like, people describe a flow state when they make music?
Yeah. I'm of that like, at least right now, like, I'm of that belief that like the song is gonna happen whether it's you or somebody else.
Yeah, someone will grab
Like,
it.
so if you miss it, somebody else might pick it up and be like, "Oh, I see the song," and then they put it out, and it is
You hear that all the time. in different
good,
genres.
bad, or indifferent. It
Especially
is
like
the song.
hip-hop.
The song is their song now.
I mean, has that ever like actually happened?
Well, I think that's the reason why in any
in
period of
thought.
time you'll see multiple songs with the same title, the same lyric, the same yada yada yada. Like,
Story behind it.
the reason you see those things is because that's the moment for that, right? I mean,
the
it's how
zeitgeist.
else would you explain? Unless you're just a super conspiracy theorist and you're just like, that person ripped it off from that person. There are situations where a songwriter, like, there are connections between people. Oh, they had an idea, set it in the room.
Yeah.
That person, somebody in the room was in a different room, and that person used it in that room. Like, yes, that happens. But I've had ideas for songs that I have not shared with people. And I've said, oh, this would be a good song. And I try to write it and it sucks. And then 3 months later, so basically the song was written at the same time, the song comes out by somebody else, and I'm like, oh, that's actually a clever way of doing it. Like that's the same idea I had, and I get to hear what somebody else.
I've had it before too.
Wow.
There you go.
But there is something to like.
So they're like invention makers with their science, right? Like we think of what has happened around the world with whether it's like ideas like say evolution. There was different places where people were coming with the idea of the theory of evolution, and then there's when people were making light bulbs and stuff, there's different people that were trying to figure it out at the same time with all these inventions and all these musical people that have the muse come through them to help put out the music. Like Mike is saying, and M agreed, there's moments where they just couldn't get something out and someone else was working on it at the same time, and all of a sudden they got it out in a better way. And I think that's actually really cool and somewhat brings out the best competition, even if that's subconsciously, because of someone needs to put it out. So hopefully it's you, you know, get it out quick.
Like you having that idea, but the idea not being meant for you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And
that's very zen of you. I actually agree with that.
And also like this idea that like you can create the right environment, and also like it's whatever the universe beams down to you matched with like whatever you're going through and what's been bottled up, and that combined with like one's ability to make music at all come into play. You know, it's like I feel like the universe or ideas flowing, like that's just someone can grab it, but that idea being meant for you makes it yours. But also like, I don't know, genuinely it's you plus that inspiration, you know. So much of who you are as a human being makes it into art, even if you write from imagination.
I also want to just say, like, M is very like, she's like humble about her participation in taking those songs and like making them real. It's, you know, I get the idea that like, okay, the song is written and I'm not going to embarrass you. I know this idea of like, oh yeah, the lyrics got written and I like them and I don't want to change them, and so I'm going to sing them the way they are. But kind of like what I was saying before, like you could do it wrong, right? Like I could have a really great song and I know it's great and everybody agrees it's great, and you give it to somebody and they sing it and they're a good singer, but then you listen to it and you're like, yeah, I don't get, it's not there. It's missing. Like everybody's great, but the song is missing something. And that was not happening. The opposite was happening, where we were like, we know it's good. Then she sings it and we go, it's better.
Nice. Every time.
She didn't change a thing. She just sang it and it's better because she sounds amazing. And there's some emotional, intuitive like connection that happened when she delivered the thing.
Can I take the opposite side of that? When you take songs like Faint or Paper Cut, and then you look at Two-Faced or I'll Give You Everything I Have, I don't think anybody else could write and record those songs other than Linkin Park.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like where like I don't think
we do our best.
Where do those songs come from? Because I don't think if you would have passed up on those songs that somebody else would have eventually grabbed them.
But do you understand? Do you remember where you were at when you actually wrote them? Was there like? Do you feel like it was beamed down to you?
Our process, you know how like,
first off, those two songs are complete bangers. Like, I Give You Everything I Had is probably one of the rockiest songs I've ever heard, and it's grown so much on me. That's probably the song from Zero that I probably have grown to like the most. And if I did my top 10 songs from them again, I bet that one would be the one that has reached the highest rank out of where everything was previously ranked before. I must say that song has definitely grown on to me. And I love even this other guy's questions too. You can see that when he's asking questions, they're a bit more like that interviewer, that they're a bit more for him, where Zach's really good at just letting them talk and then asking the correct question to help just like volley it back to them, you know?
A lot of people
Let them
write
go on tangents.
like will write a song in a day. Like that's a lot of, especially young people, start at whatever time, finish 8 hours later, and they've got a finished song. That's not really my process. Like usually we'll do a bunch of that and have a bunch of seeds, a bunch of demos, and then the good ones get a lot of work, a lot of craft, a lot of tweaking, a lot of changes. Give You Everything I Have. It was maybe the last one to start, last song to get started. Did you feel like it had a lot of versions?
Yes.
A lot of versions, right?
Yeah. And
it was called Villain at one point.
Yeah, I think it was just because it had so many versions in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
I think that's why we're thinking about it, because it was like the last one to be on the album, and we had to like fucking race to get it done.
Yeah.
So it was like we had to really speed up the process, and like all we were thinking about was that song. So it felt like maybe the other ones
we weren't juggling multiple songs. We were just working on that one.
Yeah.
Right.
So that one does feel like a standout, but I believe that we did the same thing with many of the songs.
Yeah. Overflow was
too,
like
yeah.
so many versions.
Yeah.
So many versions. So there wasn't one moment when it was like, oh, the inspiration is now. It's like that moment happened, but it was just the vocal on the chorus or just the intro of the song, and those were months apart.
There are many moments.
Yeah, lots of little. But that's the beauty of working on one song over a longer period of time and not just like doing it in one day. The beauty of coming back to it and continuing to take cracks at it is that you give the opportunity for lots of lightning strikes.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Yeah, like you kind of consistently get re-inspired. What inspired you to begin with, then when you take a break, reconnect, inspires you again.
Yeah, that's right.
That's interesting.
That's right.
Can we talk about Two-Faced?
Yeah.
The guitar is incredible. Sick.
Thank you. I'll tell Brad you said it. Brad and I wrote the guitar on that song.
Are we like very selective as to like where it goes?
We don't care very much. We kind of just do whatever.
It's not true. Not true. Two-Faced, caught in the middle. The dark's too vivid. The light's not fair.
Is that your line? The dark's too vivid? I don't remember which one of us.
That's you.
Is that me?
Yeah.
I
think caught in the middle, I think was that one.
I was just thinking of like who wrote the word.
That's you.
I wonder if Two-Faced is considered their best song from a lot of people now. Like, I don't know what people consider their greatest single from this album is yet, because for me it's over each other, so don't trust my opinion if that one's like not even top 5 for most people.
We were just I haven't mentioned Colin today. Colin Britton is like, he's
amazing drummer now.
He was like part of the process just as a writer and a co-producer. Like, I just love working with Colin. I had met him in sessions and then was bringing him in to help with writing and production.
He's added a lot to this band too.
And then eventually we were like, hey dude, like, turns out we need somebody to play drums. So like, I know that's his primary instrument. So I was like, is that something you would want to do?
Lucky.
It would mean stepping away from your like production career.
Wasn't it the thing where it was like, well, we need somebody live. So do you want to play guitar or do you want to do drums?
Oh yeah. Originally it was like, we
were kind of like that.
We didn't know. Yeah. Cause Brad,
very just like, you know,
we knew Brad is, in case anybody doesn't understand the dynamic, like our guitarist Brad is our guitarist. He's in the band.
Yeah.
But he's realized that in terms of his like, it's kind of like a mental health thing. Like he doesn't love the touring and the live show lifestyle. And so he is our guitarist, but he's not playing live. So he found a guy named Alex who's spectacular, really good guitarist, and they get along great. And Brad chose Alex to play his parts live. But at the time, we hadn't met Alex, and so we asked Colin. I was like, Brad needs somebody to play guitar, and we need a drummer. Like, you do both equally well. What would you want to do? And he was just like, kid in a candy store. Like, I can't believe I think he said, I can't believe what you're asking me right now. So excited.
But again, like another testament to what you've created and built, right? Like,
do you want to be the guitarist or the drummer for our band live?
This desire, then the instant, like, yes, I'll drop but like a seasoned producer, a fantastic musician, both of you. Like the idea that like, yes, I'm going to park my stuff, and also like it's a collective thing now. It's also the universe.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right. That's right.
A lot of stuff falling into place.
Well, and Colin and Emily, like originally, if you had talked to us in like 2019, like we were just looking for a singer, right? That was the role to fill. And as things evolved, it became what it is. And I realized after we launched, like actually it was as the week of the launch show, like a little over a month ago, the pressure was on. Everything was about to happen. Nothing had really leaked.
It's like crazy.
We were all like,
how do they keep it such a secret?
We were all so nervous too. And we were just
man.
we have so much to get right. Don't mess up anything. Don't miss a beat. Like, let's just get it right. And I watched Colin and Emily have each other's back. Like they were like, we're the new guys. Like we got it. Let's rehearse more. Together. Let's get everything right. And they kind of went on their own and spent time together to like work stuff out that we knew because we've been doing it for 20 years. And I realized, oh my God, like we accidentally ended up in this wonderful dynamic where they've got each other. They can both go and like besides the playing, like relate. They can talk about it and be like, can you believe we're sitting here doing this? Like this is weird. Yeah. And they had those, I've heard them have those conversations. It's awesome. It's the best. You should talk about it because I shouldn't be talking about it.
No, you're right. I mean, it's like one of those things where I'm like, I couldn't have done this by myself, like being the only, like how, it's like a blessing to have had him have this whole process with me. Yeah. And I didn't realize until it started getting, like the pressure was on and we were like, oh my God, like we have each other for this. Like this is, again, like it was the universe. Like I don't think I would have taken it so much, like as much grace as I have without him, you know? And because they're all seasoned in this. So it's nice to have that person where it's like, everything's so exciting and new, just like, you know, and you know, we're just like, what the fuck? Like what things that they're just like, do, you know, as like anybody would look and be like, fuck Emily, like how crazy is this? I'm like, yeah. So that's basically how Colin and I talk, like, what the fuck, you know, like as fans, you know.
Emily, when Mike,
that's the best thing because now you got two fans that got to be part of this band, and that really is one of the best recipes for success. One of the best Pokemon games, and I know I'm talking about Pokemon again, is a remake of Gold and Silver, and it was actually a fan that got to partner with Pokemon to do that remake, and it was basically one of the most well-received Pokemon games of all time because of that connection. So now when you get some fans that ultra-talented fans get to come and join the band, and get to change it in their own way and get to do it together. Like coming to a school and you're the new kid. It would be nice if there's another new kid at the school that you both can relate with to then express what you're going through, as well as hopefully joining a group. So it's really cool to see that they did have each other because like Emily's saying, if I didn't have Colin, it might have been too isolating in the new kid feeling to doing this, but that's so cool that even Mike likes hearing those conversations of like, oh my God, this is so surreal, because there must be some pride in knowing how much influence and how much joy he's really given to the world. And it's come back to him. It's even restarted Linkin Park because of fans in a sense. So that's really cool. Shout out to the fans of Linkin Park.
I talk like, what the fuck, you know, like as fans, you know.
Well, Emily, when Mike first tells you that you guys are going to do live shows, like where do you start? Like, do you just dive into the catalog or ask Mike for a set list? Like, where do you begin?
It's a good question. He definitely had like this is what we usually do live. You know, these are the ones that go very well. And it's like a very long list. So I didn't really have to have something exact, you know. It's just like, well, got to get fucking started, you know, like this is going to be a lot. Like Colin and I were, you know, practicing months before, you know, like in his studio and just going over and like just trying to get these songs to feel like mine, you know. Yeah. And some of them were a lot harder to do because like the older ones were harder. Even though I knew like when the song starts, like I know how to sing it, it was harder because there's layers to it where it's like years. I don't know why.
Mental
like a
layers.
mental, yeah. And it's like there's so much more to uncover with the song to like really get to like, okay, it's meant so much to me, and it's meant so much it's like solidified in, like we're talking about the universe. It's like it's solidified in the universe. So now I have to somehow crack that and make that something that's relatable to me and to you as a listener.
Was that like...
So it's a lot
like
more
Numb.
layers.
Like Numb, for example.
Yes.
It's probably one of them, right?
In the end,
yeah.
you know.
And you can't even think
even
about
Crawling.
it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
Well, Crawling was
So-
funny because Crawling was one of the... Okay, but she says that. But like, we were playing around with these like just what ifs. And we played... It was acoustic guitar and Emily singing Crawling in my studio.
God.
That just sat down like, what about this? And she like, what key do we find? Do we sing it in? She sat there and just like belted it out one time. I was like, yep, that's the fucking song. Like, that sounds awesome. And what was great about it is,
I love her on Crawling.
you know, for some people, the fact that it sounds different, they don't like that. They're not comfortable with that. I say yet, because I think the more
I think a lot of people
they
are
get
at yet.
like a little bit of exposure to it, some of them are going to come around and be like, oh, actually, I get it now.
Right.
hope.
But for me, I already am
Took one
like
listen.
accustomed to her voice,
For me,
and
at
I was ready to hear that. And when she sang it, I went, what I love about this is it sounds like the song. It doesn't sound like Chester singing the song. It just sounds like the song. It sounds great. So I was so
Yeah.
like
it's the emotion
confident.
in it.
Right.
It's the emotion.
That's the part she needed to connect.
I had to.
with.
That's what anybody's going to connect to, because when they hear that song, it is the emotion. Obviously, his voice is incredible, and you know it does other things. But like, it's the emotion side of it that I had to, and it was easier for me for the emotion side because that album, like we talked about, was
It helped shape
huge for me.
the way you sing.
Yes, and how I wanted to emote as a singer, you know, and so just like what he was saying, it's getting that, like, the layers, you know, like everybody's so used to hearing it a certain way as well. That's like one of the layers, you know? And so having all that time with Colin, and, you know, because he's a great producer, so he was able to help me in ways that I didn't even realize.
Himself.
You see what I mean? So it's like
Yeah.
so many of these great moments where we're just like, oh
Colin.
my God, we needed each other,
Hidden
you know?
gem, too.
And how it just like really came together, like with the band. Like it's like one of those things again, like where it's just all fell into place so beautifully.
It's really wild.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, on
You're
your
telling me.
side, how good did it feel to finally perform these songs again?
I mean, amazing. Yeah. Like part of it is like going from the band being like an indefinite hiatus or whatever it was. Like, we didn't put names on it. It was just like, yeah, we're not doing anything. From it being that to like standing on a stage and doing it. I think there were all these weird little moments that were so surreal. One of them, just getting on a stage and doing it, getting in a room and doing it for the first time felt so cool. That was actually more stressful though, for some reason. Like I felt like, because it was so rough, you know, it was like, I hope we've set aside enough time for us to, you know, to get this right.
Yeah, there was that moment for
and
sure.
then, but that's normal. I went home and I was like, oh, I'm stressed, but I guess that's normal. It'd be
because
weird.
you guys haven't played the songs in so long too, so that's
And we changed.
Yep.
We were
some of the
changing.
keys,
We were changing keys on songs that we played for 20 years. I had to relearn "Breaking the Habit" from scratch practically.
Oh,
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, just because it had to be a different key. But yeah, I think the most important thing is that,
That's
like,
cool.
for me, I can probably speak for, you know,
that's actually so nice, because having to do some of those old fundamental songs that they thought they already knew, then having to change it because of her tone and changing the key. I think that would bring out the best in any artist when you have to then change your game on things you already thought you kind of knew, because you can get complacent and comfortable. And if you have to change the norm, that's only going to bring out more proteins in your body to activate. And that's why they all just seem so alive right now, because the ability to then perform some of these old songs that you've made while it's still feeling a bit fresh and new, that is such a luxury to have.
other guys too. It's like, you know, having a thing that you felt like it was taken away,
No kidding.
And then have them being able to get it back. Like, oh, you can't play shows as Linkin Park anymore. Even though Linkin Park is like part of my DNA. It's like, you know,
oh, that'd be horrible.
when everybody's got like a core identity diagram that you like, there's stuff like when you draw your little, like, this is who I am. Like if you ask anybody, like if you were to sit down with a piece of paper and like write down the things that make you, that's a crazy exercise if you think about it. Like shit, like it's your like the things you love to do, your family, like do you have kids, you have some love, you have spouse, whatever, like the things that make you and your beliefs and blah blah. Like really right in there in the middle of it is Linkin Park for me. And that's
you got that right.
There are other things too. There are many other things too, but to have that one out was painful. So to have it back in was like, I mean, there's nothing like it. There never will be anything like it.
And to be fair, so many of the other things are connected to Linkin Park. So much of one's identity, life, everything.
Yeah.
And like your music.
Like you, for example, that you have a
Linkin Park is literally the reason why I like music. It's that album's the first album I've ever heard from start to finish. Loved it so much, and it's the first concert I ever went to was Linkin Park. So it's definitely a huge part of my life as well, and I'm sure a lot of people. This band is so revolutionary that if you did like them, they had to have changed your life.
18-inch Linkin Park tattoo on your back. I know what a big fan, like it's so meaningful to you that the band is playing these shows.
But the other thing too is it does matter to so many people, right? Like there is magnitude to the art that you make. Like it is true.
I've seen
troll. Mike's the best. What a troll.
There was on our YouTube page, one of the first episodes of we have this thing called LP TV, and one of the first episodes was about the first few shows, LA, New York, and there's a fan who has all of our Chester and Rob included the original lineup, our signatures on his. Has them tattooed on his arm. Oh, wow. And I think he has. I don't remember how many shows. He's been to over 50 Linkin Park shows. He's got tons and tons of Linkin Park related tattoos, among other things.
Wow.
And one of the things he said was like, he's like, I've got 2 spaces about like right here. This is where Emily and Colin are going to go.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, that's a crazy way to start this tour.
Yeah.
In that moment, do you realize that Linkin Park is actually bigger than any group or one person? It's like kind of a lifestyle and it's a culture thing.
I learned that, yeah.
and I say this with respect. Like,
how does that feel? Is that?
I knew it was big.
Underground.
But like.
It's
like shit. You know?
I mean, you could easily make the case that it's bigger than you. It's bigger than Rob. It's bigger than ever.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That fan was shown in one of the new LP TVs. I got to go check out those LP TVs as well.
It goes without saying, though, because it's like even when we were talking about the lyrics and people like coming up with their own, like identifying with the songs a different way. We make a thing. It goes out into the world, and they connect with it on their terms, and that part of it becomes, I mean, that half of it, I don't know, that part of it is their thing now. So it's out of our hands, and it's the world's property, right? So it's Linkin Park memes, it's Linkin Park tattoos, it's animated music videos with the people who are editing Naruto. With Linkin Park stuff, like I don't know. People do all kinds of they make crazy things that are their, the way they're relating to the music.
I love the Dragon Ball.
They're having their experiences. They're going on road trips, listening to it. They're playing it for their children, and having an emotional moment, a memory that they are creating that is completely a bubble, that's their own bubble, and that if they remember, do you know what I'm saying? Like
totally.
Kids, I watched a couple. We were playing a show in LA, and I watched a dad and his daughter, and she was like, this was years ago though, but it was like she was probably like 13, 14.
Probably your first concert.
And when we played the newer stuff, she was elbowing him and going like this, blah, blah, blah. You could see her doing it. And then we played like one step closer, and he was like, okay, and he's like, has his arm around her, he's like, yeah, and she's like, oh, okay, like this is what like she was like, they were coming at it from a generational, with a generational gap in between, and they both loved the same thing, and they were having this wonderful moment. It was really sweet, but I left there going like, oh wow, this is what it's all about now. It changed. Like in the early days it was one thing, but now it's this thing, and I don't know where it's going to be 10 years from now.
How does that thing influence From Zero?
Well, I mean, that's kind of part of what the name is about. So the name is, among other things, one reason I liked the name is that it's being from scratch, from a blank canvas, right? And the other thing is that our first band was called Zero.
Yeah.
Yes.
With an
And
X.
it was XERO, and it started with me and my friend Mark. We were like probably 17, and then we wrote some demos and eventually brought on Brad and Dave and Rob and Joe. So this is that was the 6, and we got signed at that point. Like later, we did a bunch of showcases. We tried to get signed. Nobody wanted to sign us. Eventually, it happened. When Mark left and Chester came on board, and then we changed the name to Linkin Park. But the original band name Zero was in the beginning it was just me and Mark. So there's an element of this album that like gets back to basics that way. Like it gets back to we tried to get back to the purity of like making music just for the sake of making stuff that we thought was interesting, making stuff that we thought was cool.
And that's why
How do you
From
achieve
Zero
that in
came
the actual process?
No expectations.
That's a good,
Yeah. good way to
That's
say
what we
it.
had.
keeping the expectations out a little bit.
Yeah.
That's something you only have when you're young, really. you know?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And we talked
you
about
don't
that.
know.
Yeah.
Like we get to make our first album twice. That's kind of what I thought with this album. You
That's
know?
cool.
And it's
Yeah.
a very definitive moment where it's like you could do anything. And that is such a freedom to have in a band. And especially for, Linkin Park being one of the biggest rock bands in the world, And I think there's something very magical to first albums, and we got to do this, and it felt like a first album for us. It was great. Like that energy.
Interesting.
And I'm even so excited for their second album because Hybrid Theory and Meteora, there's something intertwined about those two, the duality of what they brought for me as a Linkin Park fan, because now that they know what they picked on this new From Zero start, their next album's going to be honed in to, I think, a more specific, not as ambiguous. So I'm just really looking forward to just the future of Linkin Park as well, and I'm glad that they felt like it was like a full new album too for them.
Couldn't have said it better.
What do you think?
That's right.
I just want to know how you approach that scream on Heavy as the Crown. It's a long one.
We have a video. You want to cut to it?
I will. We'll put that up. We'll put that up soon.
Yeah.
Or at some point soon.
I mean, it was the first time that we did it.
That was first take, by the way.
I was going to ask
The
how many
scream
takes?
that's on
Wow.
there, she did it a couple times,
Wow.
but the one that's on the record is the first one.
Yeah.
she did.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
There's a video. I don't know why it's not out. I thought
We're gonna put it out. I forgot we had it when the song came out, and now I found
kinda
it.
fun
We'll put it
not
out.
to-
We'll put it
yeah.
out. It'll be on our socials at some point soon.
The intro of that song is really majestic. It's great. It
Which
feels
one?
different.
The string thing.
Yeah, Heavy as a
Oh,
Crown.
yeah.
Starts like in a really different way. I like it.
It's like I
It
had
feels
to,
orchestral. It feels, I don't know.
I made it was quite a process to make that sample. I mean,
It used
like,
to be a different timing too.
oh, that's right. Yeah, it used to be straight. It used to be da da da. Da, da, da. But no, it was da da da. Right, it was on the downbeats, and then Joe and Mike Elizondo suggested we do something to make it a little. I think they said groovier, and I was like, oh, what is this, like disco? And then we moved that little jog,
Definitely has a little disco vibe.
and it made
to
it almost
doesn't
feel like
it?
Bollywood, which I liked.
Yeah.
So Bollywood.
The scream on
okay?
Casualty, crazy.
Oh man.
Oh,
Scream-
just like
yeah.
the courses.
Yeah. I felt like they were screaming at each other. It was intense.
Oh yeah. That was like a thing where like let's do something different.
Let's
right?
do something different. I was like, I have an idea for how I could do this verse, but it might suck. Like, I'm not going to be able to do it that many times. And then I did it, and then Joe was like, so I feel like we unlocked a thing that Mike needs to do a lot more often.
So cool.
He's like, can you do that all the time? He really liked it.
How'd you get there? What do you think about
Anger?
Yeah, well, I grew up on. There's a very specific type of like heavy. It falls into the category of hardcore. Like people think of like New York hardcore or like straight edge hardcore bands. And if you're into that genre, which I'm not a tourist, but I'm not like super deep. But I do love bands like Strife, newer bands too, like Speed and Gel, and there's a band called, well, anyway.
I don't even know any
Super
of those
Duper
bands.
Rabbit Hole. There's an aesthetic though of those types of bands, and I think my gateway into that was Helmet. Do you know the band Helmet?
No.
So we're actually, Paige from Helmet, we asked him to sing on a song on our album, The Hunting Party. And I've always just been a big fan of them. And they actually are going to open for us on our upcoming date in Dallas, which is like such a nice moment. Like I know that most of the fans don't know who they are. Their like biggest album was like 30 years ago. Like it's crazy. So I just love this band, and I love that type of music and stuff like that. Like I think when I can tap into, we were talking about like going back to the roots and like being a young kid, doing a record for the first time. That I think the yelling, screaming part for me, I don't really do a scream. It's just like it's like hardcore. It's like that's what I was kind of thinking.
Very hardcore, Mike.
I never thought I could do that. I think when I tried to, I was younger and my voice was higher, and it didn't sound good. So now that my voice is like older, I thought it sounds cool now. More authority.
I agree.
You tell them.
Yeah.
What'd you guys learn about yourselves from making this album?
Ooh, good question.
Oh God, probably a lot. I probably need to not talk about any of it in a recorded format.
That's for my therapist.
Exactly.
How did you guys keep this a secret? Because when you were here in 2023 of last year, you said nothing. We were asking you little questions. You played it off like nothing was happening.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was tough.
I'm proud of myself.
Yeah, you did good.
I was so tempted sometimes.
Oh,
I don't remember
man.
here whatever, but I was like, there were some moments when people would ask a question and I'd be like, oh, if you only knew, motherfucker. Oh. We were in it, like at that time when I put out Already Over. We were making Linkin Park songs at that point. Like we weren't calling them Linkin Park songs, but we were involved. You know,
Wow.
we were getting busy. And
Busy.
I think one of the things that struck me is that keeping it a secret, like a bunch of people knew. They had to know because we were setting up things. Like we were having people come in and like write. We were having people,
Shoots.
we were shooting things. We were
A lot of
asking
people
for
involved,
we were talking
yeah.
to openers. So that meant like other bands and management and stuff. And
Nice.
the only thing that makes any sense to me logically is that the reason it didn't leak is because people either liked us or respected us enough to not do that. And
Yeah.
that, so to me, that's like, was
No
such
one wanted
a
to be the one.
beautiful thing.
That's
That
big.
really
Yes.
is
Right?
big.
Like
Yeah.
I like my friends even more now.
Absolutely.
No
Because nobody
kidding.
went out and was like, yo, did you hear?
Now, like in moments like that, you learn who the real ones are.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Emily, did you keep it to yourself, or did a lot of your friends and family know?
No, not a lot of people knew. I mean, we talked about this where I've just like, it was hard to go hang out because I didn't want to say anything. Like when
Don't
I had a
wanna
couple
leak
drinks and I get excited or a song comes on, I was
Yeah.
just like, I'm gonna fucking say something.
No
So
kidding.
I stopped going out so much. I kept a very low profile within that time. I was also very busy too, and I was just like very immersed in it. And I just wanted to stay in that zone as well.
Well done.
And just be like, okay, like it was very, very exciting for me. And especially in those moments of excitement, I wanted to tell people. So that's when I knew I had to step back a little bit.
Wise
But when I
choice.
started doing the work, that's when it became easy, where I didn't think too much to like have to tell people. But I definitely had to have like a, what are you doing? What's Dead Sarah doing? What's this? Like, you're in the studio? Cool. Like I had to like just kind of Yeah,
So you had some
just writing, just having fun.
answers.
Yeah. Being very vague, but yeah, very vague.
Has success been redefined at all with all of this for you?
For me, it gets redefined all the time.
What is it today?
Yeah, good question.
What success?
Yeah, I think
I don't know.
I think part of it. I think part of it is part of it is enjoying what you do,
Yes.
to enjoy what comes at you, and to seek out stuff that you know you enjoy, or at least might enjoy. Because sometimes those things you don't know. You might do something that is challenging or uncomfortable, but you're like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and I know it might suck, it might end up being bad, but I'm gonna have fun trying it. So because I think new experiences are important. So
Very valuable.
that's a thing.
Travel, y'all.
And yeah, we were talking about all the little weird new things. Like earlier, we were joking about makeup. Like, having a woman in the band is a new thing. Like there's little nuances to like, oh, we can't just have everybody in the band like getting dressed in the same room, like running around in a towel. We used to just be like, whatever. I mean, we weren't like naked dudes in a room. We were both like, it was like a locker room, right? Like, and I was like, okay, so we got to set up our backstage a different way. Like, what's comfortable for you? And how do we do that? And also not be separated. Like we want to be together and like, cause it's fun, but we also have to have some private space. So stuff like that, like,
Exactly.
It sounds stupid. Like it sounds like, okay, yeah, just figure it out. But to me, it's like, it keeps this thing that we've done for so long, it like turns it on its side a little bit. And you get to go, oh, that's gonna be different. That'll be interesting.
A new approach to something that you've gotten, like, that again, like becomes just like muscle memory, an extension of you.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think? What's your success?
I think she's succeeding right now.
I'm still trying it on for size, man. This shit is like, fuck. You're a lot busier. It's a lot more work, but it's all
we're
worth
almost
it.
done this interview.
You know what I
y'all.
mean?
Thank you
It's
so
like
much for being
it's
here.
so
If you're having a
crazy.
good
I'm
time and having
still
it, please hit the
trying
like
to
button
like
and definitely subscribe if you are not part
figure
of
it all
EnterTheCronic
out.
yet.
But it's like after this tour, I came back home and I was just like, oh, okay. It's not like it's crazy.
Was it
like,
too quiet? Did you have any moments where when you came home from tour, you were like, I got to get back out on the road again because it's too slow, it's too quiet right now? Or
not
did you
for the
enjoy
first
it?
week.
Yeah.
But once we started getting in the studio again, because I knew that, I kind of like mentally was like, okay, we're gonna be in the studio, we're gonna be together again. And then when we started doing that, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go on the road again. Like,
cool.
It like ignited that, like, and you get excited.
Yeah.
Because it is like a high. Like it's a drug that you get used to.
Yeah. And it's everything I've dreamed of. Like it's absolutely, I'm so fortunate to be in this position. Like it's crazy. But like I feel like I've been training to be in this position for a long time, with the style that I sing and like being in a band for so long. It's like
She was the right pick.
I feel like, it's like I've been training, but then when I get into being in this position, I'm like, holy shit, I have so much to learn still, and I always want to do a really good job. So I could be really hard on myself.
And honestly, I always say they're like athletes. You can practice basketball or soccer or whatever sport you do, but then once you join a team, they have a specific regimen, a culture that you need to adapt to your playing style as well, so you can make sure you fit with the team. And it's just beautiful to see how effortless all this chemistry building was for them and how much they love spending time with each other.
Myself at the same time. So it's like, there's moments where I really, really enjoy like, oh, the success and stuff like that. But I'm like, don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
There's like that voice and it's like, keep going.
I love that though. That's like one of the great things about you. One of the great things about everybody in the band is that like, I think everybody takes that very seriously. Nobody's trying to just be like coasting. Everybody's like putting in the effort.
Well, and that's what like changes, right? Like,
well, I mean, but at this point, even for us, like 10, 15 years ago, I don't think I think that we even then were, there was a potential for the band to be like a little bit jaded or a little bit like just like letting it ride a little bit. I don't think we really do that. We're just like, for me, I'm just too, I need to be, my mind needs to be occupied with stuff. Like I need to be doing stuff, making things.
Me too.
And,
go.
You produced 26 records over Twitch over COVID. Like that's, I didn't know. You didn't even know that, but you did. For people you met,
counting.
for you produced records for people you met on the internet.
That's true. That's true. I did that. Some of those were really good. I don't know, man.
No, just a testament to the fact that you need to be doing.
Like, I don't know if they would have been better like Instagram reels than like songs, but like still.
The more you know.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think part of it is.
Oh my God.
Another thing that we didn't talk about in terms of like what's a success is like community and making like connections with people. Like I feel like one of the things that's back for a lot of people is, oh, this band that I really enjoy is like active again, and we get to share this experience or share this energy, and we get to like do things like scavenger hunts online with them, play with them, right? It's playful, and I like to. That's a thing besides music, but related to music that I like to do.
Music cultivates the community.
Yeah, I love that.
By the way, you can listen to the album From Zero. It's waiting for you on Amazon Music. Link below. Code on the screen. What are you thinking?
I think we're getting the wrap up in our ears.
Nah, dude. I know. I really, you guys are really special. We're gonna get into like a track by track, so you can listen to the album in a whole new way on Amazon Music. Thank you for just being here, but also for making music and continuing to create. It really is deeply, deeply appreciated. And
thank you.
Yeah, the music is really special.
I think our fans know at this point that I'm like I've become a little picky about who I want to talk to about our stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it's like I feel like I'm becoming Sam Elliott. Just like, I'm getting too old for this shit. I don't need to be talking to all these people.
Your time and energy is very
I love talking to you guys about this stuff because I just feel like there's a mutual. I feel like there's a mutual respect. I don't even respect us. You act like you do. I respect what you do. I enjoy the conversation. So
you can tell.
Thank you, man.
Real recognizes real, and I deeply do. And both of us, our lives have been shaped by the art that you made and the art that comes to life. So right?
We've always loved Linkin Park.
Thank you.
I will
appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Forever.
Like having you guys.
No, you're on this side of the desk now. You're over here.
Right. I'm a singer. I'm a singer now.
Thank
Right.
you. You're good. You're part of the thing.
What were you saying?
No, I was saying like it's just like cool to have you. Like every time you guys come in, it's just like they're actually like they're here. Like to me, even though we have people every day, I'm like it's still cool.
That's great. Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
But also like there's timeless records, there's like generational defining records, there's genre defining records, there's songs that create new genres. You literally check off every box of what I just listed, and you could do 1,000 interviews and not actually cover all of it, and it's really powerful. And just thanks for coming in always. It really means the world.
Well, that was the exact thing.
Mike and Emily, Linkin Park, everybody.
Mike and Emily, Eminem.
Good job, man.
Linkin Park. Wow. Incredible. Wow. I would love to see even more of those interviews. That's definitely the interviewing style that I love, and it's aspirations for us on the channel. We have a podcast called Storytime with ETC where we interview bands like that, and there is something surreal when you're talking to someone that has influenced your life so much, like when we've interviewed some people on our channel. So it's really cool to see that Mike is so selective and got to have this awesome chat with Zach, and I don't know what the other guy's name there was, because getting to see that chemistry in front of you, it shows what type of people they really are the best. That's when the walls get broken down, and it's not so much of a segment show. It's really an open conversation. And they were talking a lot about success at the end there. I know for me, this channel is very successful for what I would want out of it. A community got to be made from it. We got the Chronicans. I've been able to travel around the world with my fiance and get to see these bands and get to talk to them in person and get to have cultivating community around the world. And there's nothing better than that. So before we jump on to the next interview, I want to thank you all for being here for this long already. And we're about to jump into Mike Shinoda on creating and reinventing Linkin Park plus his creative evolution. Before starting that, though, I am going to go to the washroom and then I will be right back. So now's a good time to refuel if you do not have any drinks or snacks. And I hope you guys have been enjoying this so far too. And I'll see you guys very shortly. Much love. Talk soon. right, everyone. Welcome back. I am unloaded now. We're ready for the second interview for this live stream. And I want to know what y'all are drinking. I had a Dr. Pepper for my first half. Now we're going into some Canada Dry Blackberry Ginger Ale. And unfortunately, I had it too far back where it was near the fan and the heater on the laptop. So it's a little warm, but we're still going to enjoy it. So let's get it going, everyone. That was a great first interview. Learned a lot about it. And what's also really cool is how much y'all have been speaking some of the things that have been found from these interviews to me during my reactions. I just remember so much of this information being told by you in the comments. So that just shows how connected you all really are to what's happening. And this one is 3 weeks ago. And there's a little write-up here that I think might be worth kind of reading here. In 1996, a 19-year-old in Aguera Hills, California, with an eye for design and an ear for music had an idea. Obsessed with art and classically trained as a pianist, Mike Shinoda heard classic rock samples in the hip-hop he loved and became transfixed by the potential of combining his love of rap and heavy metal. The band he co-founded, Linkin Park, became one of the most popular and influential groups of the 2000s, cementing Shinoda a leading role in converging culture. And it all started with one idea. And what a great idea it truly is. And now let's go hear his thoughts, Mike Shinoda, from Complex's interview. And if you have seen this interview as well, let me know what you thought about it the first time you saw it. And also thank you for checking out for a second time or more if you're here with me for that amount of time too. All right.
The opportunity to continue doing what we love to do got taken away. Like in our minds, it was almost
water
like
should
done.
Be what I'm drinking.
Part of maybe the motivating factor was to show what it looks like to like be rock bottom and dust yourself off and get up and do it again.
In 1996, a 19-year-old in Agoura Hills, California, with an eye for design and an ear for music, had an idea. Obsessed with art and classically trained as a pianist, Mike Shinoda heard classic rock samples in the hip-hop he loved and became transfixed with the potential of combining his love of rap with his love of heavy metal. The band he co-founded, Linkin Park, became one of the most popular and influential groups of the 2000s, cementing Shinoda's leading role in convergence culture.
Got that right.
And it all started with one idea.
Ideas of the global currency of the 21st century. Nice.
201, take one.
Mike, welcome to Idea Generation.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, it's our honor. I wanted to talk to you about collaboration. When I look at sort of the breadth of your career, that is one of the sort of most significant through lines and something that it appears you have mastered. What is, in your estimation, the key to a successful collaboration?
Well, I think I'm lucky in the sense that
Jay-Z.
I grew up, drawing and painting and making music in a way that was a little more solitary. Like I make my thing and I finish it. When I first got together, I had a really good friend that I've known since I was about 13, and his name's Mark, and he and I started a band called Zero, and Zero became basically Hybrid Theory, which became Linkin Park.
Amazing.
During that time when I was like starting, to work with him, I was like making a couple like beats for friends who rapped, and Mark and I were doing stuff with like rock music. And then I went to college, for illustration, in art school, there's a lot of criticism. It's part of the process of being in school for art is that you make things, and then the instructor and your classmates critique them, and you all give each other criticism. Yeah. And so with those two things going on, like the band going on and the school going on, where there's a lot of collaboration and constructive criticism, sometimes with good intentions, sometimes not. At least I got much better at hearing criticism and building ideas with people.
Very beneficial being able to hear criticism.
The most important idea I've ever had,
I like this.
It's probably more of a realization than an idea, just the realization that like sometimes I can't do it on my own.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Like needing help and asking for help is like kind of like there's an honor in that, and also like a wisdom in that.
Yeah.
You mentioned growing up, drawing, obviously playing piano as well, and pursuing sort of a myriad of creative arts.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how did your parents' professional life inform your sort of career ambitions?
They were from very different backgrounds. My mom is from rural Appalachia in the hills. They grew tobacco on a farm. Their nearest neighbor was like a mile down a dirt road. Really? My dad was first generation Japanese born in the US. His father immigrated over from Japan, and they were interned in World War II. He ended up going to school and becoming an engineer, and he worked in the space program and aerospace and like space shuttle space. Wow. He literally worked on rockets and the space shuttle itself.
Here you go,
My mom ended up working doing like paperwork and stuff like that. She was more of like a secretary assistant type of position, and she met my dad there. And she eventually became a court reporter. The reason I say all that is I have my dad's like engineering kind of brain, and my mom, when she got into court reporting, there was a lot of medical background she had to learn, and a lot of English and grammar. And so those things kind of, she
a unique blend of talent.
Supported those things with us. Like if we use bad punctuation or bad grammar on something, she'd call us out immediately.
Were there any sort of influences in your immediate family or sort of friend circles that kind of opened your eyes to the possibilities of a career in the creative arts?
I just grew up drawing. Like I was drawing from the moment I could hold a pencil, and my mom and dad figured out very quickly that if they went out to dinner and they just gave me something to draw with, that I'd be occupied for any amount of time. They could sit and have dinner with their friends for 2 hours, 3 hours even, and I'd be fine. So that was just a part of my life all throughout my childhood, and it was actually the thing that I thought I would be doing for a living.
We are somewhat contemporaries, about the same age. Mm-hmm. And, in the late 80s, early 90s, I would say music in particular, culture generally, was much more balkanized than it is today. And growing up, for me, it was like, I listened to De La and Tribe and Nas and Wu-Tang, and that was a thing. And then there were the kids that listened to Nirvana and Sonic Youth and Lemonheads or whatever. Obviously, you were able to pull from a myriad of different inspirations, again, in an environment where that was not something that was, sort of lionized in the way that it would later become. How did those ideas sort of come into focus for you?
I agree, and even when I was liking Linkin Park at the time when they first came out, that was the constant pushback I was getting. It was too much mixed with different genres, and everyone was like, no, I like my rap or my rock, and even if you liked rap, then you kind of liked playing basketball where I was from. If you liked rock and all that, maybe you were playing soccer more, or baseball or something like that. So those cultures really did have to unite in this century. So it's pretty interesting to know how much really Mike Shinoda has influenced people, because music really is one of the biggest influencers ever.
I was always just drawn to a lot of different things. I was like what you're describing. I remember in one of my classes, it was an art class. My friends at my table, we were hip hop kids, and that's what we listened to. And there were some kids who were rock kids, and they sat at a different table, and they wore Metallica tees.
That's what
and
I
we
was
hated
gonna
each
say.
other. Just on the music. I mean, it was like, it wasn't that deep. Like we weren't like fighting or whatever physically, but we would make fun of each other. We wouldn't hang out. We would not associate because the music was the divider. Eventually, I just naturally heard things.
Yeah,
I heard things.
See, even Polky's mentioning that at his school, if you didn't like a certain type of music, you could become quite unpopular. And I know that it even can transition to your house life when you're at school and there's kids that make fun of you for the music you like. Then you won't even listen to it at home, and then you're even scared to show it to like your family, and just it's so destructive. So you need a band like Linkin Park to bring those friends together to all like something about it, and that's really what's united. Even my stepkid Avery and I has been Linkin Park and bands and songs like this that has helped bring in the metal lover like me and the more rap side and then Avery, and coming together with a band like this really helps. So I know they were ahead of its time, and they still are, I think.
Things that were bridges, that were connectors. Like it started with Beastie Boys sampling Zeppelin and Hendrix. Because I didn't just like listen to the Beastie Boys record and memorize that and move on to the Run DMC record and blah, blah, blah. I heard those samples and I realized, oh, that's The Ocean by Zeppelin. That's When the Levee Breaks by Zeppelin. And a little while later, bands like Rage and Chili Peppers, and there was a soundtrack called Judgment Night. Do you remember that?
With Adele and Dinosaur Jr.
Right, so like that had Helmet and House of Pain together on it. And stuff like that, I was like, this is it, man. I love whatever this is. These are the like these guys like.
Recognize what moves you.
What I like. This is the kind of music that I'm listening to. And once you start thinking about that, you can just realize there's so many ways to blend it.
Blending.
My biggest.
If you're here, blending things has been something that has inspired you, viewer.
Early supporter. I had a piano teacher from when I was like, I don't know, like 3, 4, 5-ish, for about 12 years. And at a certain point, I was learning classical theory, all the basics. And at one point when I really fell in love with hip hop, I was learning about jazz, I was learning about blues, some rock. And I told my teacher I wanted to learn those things, in particular jazz. And my teacher said, well, I think you should actually quit lessons. And I can't teach you that. And actually what you really want to do is you want to start making things. And so you should probably like look into buying that type of gear and learning how to use it. And it was one of the most selfless,
that's very
like
respectable,
sweet, honorable things that she could have done. Like she basically was saying she was willing to like lose a client, lose her, whatever that's worth to her every month, in order for this kid to like pursue their dreams and get, figure it out.
Amazing.
It's an incredible way to be.
I love when there's people like that are selfless.
Do you remember writing the first song where you felt like you had found this sort of balance of almost like, songwriting with the density of rap music, but with hooks that had echoes of a Metallica or,
I can tell you that off of Hybrid Theory, the song that I've always
Paper Cut?
I think the whole band pretty much thinks was like that thing is Paper Cut, the very first track off the
I knew it. I feel so in sync with this one. How could it not be Paper Cut? Honestly, y'all, I think Paper Cut should be top 5 Linkin Park song of all time, in my opinion. And the combination of Chester and Mike together at that end, it's what made me a believer in Linkin Park. Really.
Very first record, the reason it's there, the reason that's the first song, is because it really contains the basics of everything that Linkin Park is. Like in the rhythms, in the way the drums and the samples and the guitars are treated, the rapping, the hookiness, and then it ends with big melodies, and it's manages to be like high energy but also introspective.
Yeah.
Right, because a lot of stuff that was coming out at that time was very much like we called it frat rock. Like it was aggressive and macho and whatever, and we were like, yeah, there's a time for that. Some stuff that we made, it like leans into that a little bit, but mostly not. Usually not. Usually our stuff was more introspective.
Yep.
What was the process to get from, forming Zero and to getting to Paper Cut? Like, how many songs did you have to make? I know that the group lineup switched up along the way.
Yeah, originally the band, Zero started with just me and my friend Mark, and he was the one playing like Rage Against the Machine and stuff for me. Like he introduced me to some of those bands, and I introduced him to Wu-Tang and so on. And we were making demos back then we started off making joke songs because we didn't take ourselves seriously enough to like make real songs. But that's the thing, is I think that was really valuable to us because we could make things and experiment and get better at it without the pressure of like you're like saying something serious or whatever.
And then you added Chester into the mix and swapped out a different singer?
So our singer at the time, he went into management and we found Chester. Chester came in through a mutual friend, and it wasn't long. The steps to get from that point to our first album, like we showcased for.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe Polgi, since you're here and you've been helping so much, is Mark Hans like the DJ? I'm pretty sure that's true.
Every label, they all turned us down, and we ended up just going with our A&R guy. He had taken a job at Warner, and they okayed us to like do some demos and see, it's almost like a show us what you got kind of deal.
How did you deal with the series of rejections, and were you guys of the mind that like, they don't get it, or was it demoralizing?
I'm sure it would make a better movie script, like screenplay, if it was like we were all like, it's the only thing we got. We're all in on this music shit. But the truth is that our band, like everybody was smart and everybody had other things going on. Like, we had jobs and whatever, and if it didn't work out, we would be okay.
Wow, interesting.
I think when people are thinking of good ideas and bad ideas, sometimes they're using a metric, like they're judging it based on like, is it going to be successful?
Which one's Mark then, Polgi?
Successful, or are other people going to like this idea? And at least for my art and for my music, the best metric is really how much I like it or how much it moves me. Like I think we can get fooled sometimes by chasing after things that we think other people are going to like, because a lot of other people are going to like this idea, so it's good. Not necessarily like I always say the worst thing that could happen would be for a lot of people to like a song of mine that I.
Thank you, Polgi. So Mark was the original vocalist. That's actually something I missed, and if it was said, like I apologize for missing that info, but that's good to know. So it was always really Mike, since Mark's not there now, who's been the nucleus and the foundation core of this, and Chester came in so quick too. So that's really good for me to know now. I'm learning a lot of things that I didn't really know coming into this pre-Linkin Park.
I don't like.
What was the dynamic and sort of the internal politics of the band in that early stage?
I just remember everybody being really like focused on the next, on like the craft and the next thing. Back then, everybody was spending a lot of time playing shows. Like they would be playing shows every weekend, or every other weekend. We play shows like every other month because we were spending the whole time writing new songs and rehearsing and getting better. So we spent a lot more time on ourselves and on our foundation than just like trying to get fans.
How would you say that the sort of ideas of
they're definitely quality over quantity, and that's something I always respected about Linkin Park is how quick their albums are, how short the songs are, at least considering to some of like metal classics that I'm used to where there's like 8-minute, 10-minute songs. And I think it's very admirable, their approach.
Of what the band was going to be sort of evolved or changed between like signing day and turning in Hybrid Theory?
Well, when we got like signed, it was really like basically like a development deal. Like it was like a wait and see kind of situation. I don't think we really knew that when we signed it. I wasn't fully aware that that's what was going on. So the more we recorded, the more we wrote, the more we recorded, and honestly, the more.
1 second, y'all. I have someone at my door. So, give me one moment while I mute this and go. All right, everyone. We're done. That was all good. For some reason, I just like in my mind when that happened, going to the door and all that, I just thought about like putting out a fire. It was something I had to do kind of there during this live stream. And it really made me think about what's happening in LA right now. I don't know if y'all have seen what's going on there, but it's extreme wildfires right now, and it's gone at a ballistic level. Shocking if you see the images. So prayers go out to everyone who's affected over there and what the devastation that's been happening, even to the wildlife and everything. So, yeah, it's just heavy heart for that moment. But now we're going back to the making of Hybrid Theory in the first tour, and I love how well they've chaptered this interview out too, and how it's showing his artistic side. You get to even see him drawing something. I love the introspection when it's going black and white on what they're doing here too. So very awesome, complex interview here.
Or we stuck to our guns and said, because there were we would get suggestions from the label about doing things differently.
Yeah, and I thought Linkin Park might have lived near LA too, so hopefully they're not affected either.
And usually we told them no.
What were the kinds of suggestions that were?
Hey, you should meet with this producer. Hey, you should. On the funny side, there was one time that A&R guy asked us to, because we were still getting comfortable on stage and working out like that part of things, and he had us meet with this guy who like choreographed and helped with stage stuff on like these like rap and R&B shows. And this dude comes in and he's like basically a choreographer, and I literally suggested, he's like, you need to have like a thing on stage, like a gimmick where, like, for example, like you could like come up to the microphone and like step out to the side and step out of your shoes, or like kick a shoe off. We were like, what the fuck? That's a literal suggestion, and he was. I don't mean to make it sound like he's a crazy person. Like he was just shooting from the hip. Like it was just something that popped into his head. But like a real thing that happened was like as we finished Hybrid Theory, we were like the person who is going to mix Hybrid Theory is Andy Wallace. Andy Wallace mixed these records over here that blend samples and
smart
music and industrial sounds in a way that feels modern to us. It's very full.
I love that they're showing the albums too.
Expert level mixing. Like we love this.
Good Rage albums.
Also, by the way, mixed like Nirvana's Nevermind.
Wow.
Like he does huge records too. He's the only one who can mix Hybrid Theory. And the next thing we knew, like our A&R guy had done a test mix with somebody else. And it was because of politics and stuff going on his side. And we were scared to death that this guy was going to just like take our record and go do his own thing with it, and they were going to put it out that way.
Oh no.
So those were the places where we had to like put our foot down and have like difficult conversations with people and fight for our own vision.
Glad you did.
Linkin Park released its debut album, Hybrid Theory, immediately catapulting the band to superstardom. Over the next decade and a half, Shinoda helped push the group to expand its sonic palette, while also helming high-profile collaborations and a solo album. But the 2017 death of
Fort Minor
Mr. Bennington would put the future of Linkin Park in doubt.
Act 2.
You turn in
Practice.
Hybrid Theory, and I'm curious, sort of, what were your and your bandmates' expectations in that moment? Like, what did you really think was going to happen?
We
next?
thought we were just looking at it like, okay, now we got to go on tour, support the record, promote it. It's gonna be fun. Love going out and playing shows. They picked a single. They picked One Step Closer, and then that's gonna come out, and we'll see how it goes. And it came out, and it caught fire immediately. It went really big on alternative radio at a time when alternative radio was maybe like leading pop radio. Like things were crossing over from alternative to pop all the time.
Okay.
Which is, not happening now so much.
You feed it into the machine that is the label, and would you say that they were helpful in orchestrating
Actually,
that?
Here's a really important thing to know. So yeah, they had a really good team in place, incredible team. And when the album came out, it was about to come out, we were talking, just the band, we were talking about like what do you think a good first week would be for like, what should we expect?
Right.
And our best number was about 12,000 units sold, which would be high. It would be big for a brand new band to come out and sell 12. And I think we ended up in the 40s, 45-ish. Blew our minds.
Wow.
It blew everybody's minds. Like
Quadrupled
everyone
it.
was paying attention. Then all of a sudden, the bands that we were playing with, some of the bands that we were playing first out of 3, and the bands are treating us all bad because they're like,
they like you the most.
we're doing so well. It was funny. It was a funny time.
No kidding. They came out swinging.
All of your lives completely flip on their heads.
I think we had our heads down, and we were working really hard and very focused. So we weren't aware of it, and we actually went straight from Hybrid Theory into Meteora with very little break. Like some things were happening in our lives that were changing, but
it was still 3 years, but
a lot of downtime to absorb them.
They sure feel together, don't they?
Guys were buying like their first nice car, maybe buying a house. It was intense, but the career was going so fast that we didn't even pay attention to it.
So much adjustments.
It wasn't until after the second album,
I bet,
that we took a break intentionally. Everybody said like, we're tired, and we gotta like recalibrate our lives, and we gotta recalibrate our creative vision and see what the right next step is. Because the first 2, we can't do 3. Like the next record is like just riding the momentum of the first 2, then we're gonna be stuck.
Yes.
Like bottleneck, like our capability, like our potential as a band.
Wow, that was their approach on that, and I honestly don't know if that's true or not, even though that's a lifestyle probably that they couldn't maintain. But I think that's why hybrid theory and Meteora has a special place for so many people, is because it was on that constant grind and that adjustment period in their life where even though there was 3 years between hybrid theory and Meteora, like Mike was saying, it felt like they never stopped in that creative process. So it really was an a giant journey. I don't even know exactly when they started hybrid theory, how many years that even took exactly to make. I maybe if they said it, I just missed it now. But I think that's why even for me, after that break happened, when that music came back, they had a chance to pause and reflect. It really did change, and I think a lot of people, a lot of new Linkin Park fans came in, but I bet there were people like me who then moved away from Linkin Park once they could see where they're moving towards. Even though it wasn't bad music, I would say it's just interesting to know there was that constant grind in those first two albums that I think really shows in the music.
I'm curious, going to that second record, was there a feeling that you were just simply creatively in the zone, and or was there a sense of stakes and, a pressure?
Yeah, the stakes, there were stakes. It was high stakes. So Hybrid Theory first record was the biggest record on the planet that year.
Yes, it was.
And that was a year when it was like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and Justin Timberlake and NSYNC or whatever. I don't remember exactly all of
Oh,
them
wow.
in the conversation at the time. But we saw them as like huge pop artists. We didn't see ourselves that way at all. And when we got the data back or the results back of like they're saying, you add up all the numbers, like you guys are bigger than them on the planet Earth.
What the heck?
And we were like, that doesn't make any sense.
For the new century.
So to go from that to, okay, now let's make another record.
Wait, you need to hear these names again.
We got the data back or the results. Like an NSYNC or whatever. I don't know. When it was like Britney Spears and Christina
Britney,
Aguilera and Justin
Christina,
NSYNC or whatever.
Justin.
Exactly all of the ones that were on.
Those are some of the goats for pop culture.
But we saw them as like huge pop artists.
That's what people need to realize. Yeah.
And when we
got the movers,
the data back or the results back of like they're saying, you add up all the numbers, like you guys are bigger than them on the planet Earth.
That's crazy.
Like that doesn't make any sense. So to go from that to, okay, now let's make another record is terrifying.
No kidding.
Luckily, I think we were so in the groove and we were just working so hard that it didn't have time to sneak into our heads too much.
Lean into the momentum. It's the snowball effect.
And the result was...
Let that ball keep rolling and adding.
A way to
find a nice hill.
Direction of the first record and open it up enough that we could say, okay, like first record was very alternative rock, hip hop, like there was statement, a statement record. And then the next one we added these homemade samples, we added electronic bits. We had a song called Nobody's Listening that was basically a rap song. We had a song called Breaking the Habit, which didn't have any distorted guitars on it, and it was a big single for us. So it's like, okay, we proved to everybody, like we can make a song without traditional rock elements in it that performs well, right? That does well in the marketplace. Like that was the part that I think was a big
it's even breaking the norm, breaking the habit.
As artists.
God.
Pivoting is hard. Change is hard.
Change is hard. So, I'm not the best at change.
If somebody's wondering, like, how do I know when to change directions? Or even, like, how do I know when to stop? Like, when is something done?
Mm-hmm.
Those things I think those things come with experience and age. I do it all the time when I'm working on things. If I'm working on an album, especially from song to song, I might make something one day where I go, this is the best thing I've ever made. And then I wake up the next day and I hate it. And then a couple weeks later, it's like I make something else and I go, this changes everything in this whole album. Everything about this project needs to move closer to this new thing I just discovered. And it's like I feel like with change, with pivoting, like the more often you do it, the better you get at it. And doing it is hard, but once you get used to the discomfort of change, then you get better at
being comfortable in discomfort. That's a tough one.
And you're saying that then going into the third, there was a feeling that you had to sort of reapproach the strategy.
Yeah. So after the second record, we took a step back. I did a record called Fort Minor.
Right.
To get out of my system, like this is the hip hop. It was almost like this is the hip hop I grew up on, and how I would do it today at that time.
Remember the name.
We had already done Collision Course with Jay-Z.
Tell me,
cool.
How exactly did that?
In short, MTV asked Jay to do mashup. Who do you want to do it with? He said Linkin Park.
No way.
He said,
hell yeah.
I said, here are 3 mashups. Like, that was our response. He said, do you want to do it?
Act quickly when opportunity knocks.
And then everybody knew.
You got that right.
This was a thing. And we ended up playing.
I love these tips during this complex interview because I promise you, y'all, the times I have gotten interviews with bands and all that, you have to act quick, you have to act timely. So not just quick, but timely as well. And you need to be articulate in what you're trying to accomplish in the approach too. So, I mean, you have to think Jay-Z literally picked you, so you better act quick when Jay-Z's asking, you know? Don't leave people on red.
We did that record. I produced it and assembled it using like his Black album. They did acapellas and instrumentals.
You had the stems, right?
And and I used our stems and whatever. And I had actually grown up making mashups. They didn't actually know that, but I had grown up making mashups. It's like how I learned to do music. So it was easy for me. It was second nature for me. And that came through in the process. We got to play the Grammys with Jay and Paul McCartney, and we won a Grammy for that.
Wow.
I did Fort Minor. Jay executive produced that.
Wow, I didn't know he executive produced there.
Executive producing.
It was great. I mean, it was really his insight was very like top, like high level. He wasn't super involved in the day to day, but he did help me kind of like direct it from that high level. I think the thing that actually was the most exciting to me were the guest appearances on it. Like to get like the verse that Black Thought did on this song right now. That's maybe my favorite Black Thought verse, and top 10 Black Thought verses to me. And to have it on my project is crazy. Like I just think he's
never heard of Black Thought.
Such an incredible artist.
Let me know where he's from if you know.
On there, John Legend.
Ooh, Common, John Legend. I have not heard any of these other songs.
Skylar Grey, and many others. And then, like, I think just coming out of that, Chester did,
that would be a great album to react to.
Did a project called Dead by Sunrise, and then we kind of took a little break, and then we approached the next Linkin Park album. It was like, I mean, there's so much to talk about there, but
how was school, buddy?
School was good.
Awesome.
Mr. DeBell, a math teacher,
yeah,
decided that it'd be a great idea to just launch a bunch of work on us for the last day during a short block. So I just got a little stressed out in math today, but that's it.
Well, I found your headphones. They're up in your room.
Thank you. I got so scared I dropped them on the road on the way to school.
I bet you did. All right, we gotta get back to the live stream, okay?
All right.
I'll talk to you after.
Talk to you.
All right.
I think the most important thing was like, the reason I felt like I had to do a Fort Minor record is because I felt like certain things didn't belong. I got the impression from the other guys, like certain things didn't belong in Linkin Park. Like we do a very specific thing, and everybody was saying at that point, like, look how great this stuff you guys were doing is. Like, there should never be a thing that you can't do in Linkin Park. It's all welcome.
Mm-hmm.
So the next record became this patchwork. It took us a very long time to get there.
They're an open palette.
It became this patchwork of all of these different sounds. And on the record, you could hear from song to song, everything was very different from the last thing.
My biggest advantage.
Very true.
Entrepreneur. You know what? I'd say probably my biggest advantage is my point of view. The
well
way
said.
I see things. And I think that's true for a lot of people who are, successful at what they do. But I have, we all have a story. I have my own personal path that got me here, and it informs me all the time in the decisions I make, and I work hard to enhance my knowledge base. Yeah, I'm always trying to learn.
Mike's point of view is very intriguing.
And I do have a point of view.
Just to dial back, like, you are a songwriter, you are a rapper, you approach things from a very lyrically dense and narrative-driven place a lot of times. I'm curious, how do you sort of balance...
I like this guy's interviewing skills as well.
The next song. And also, as you've gotten older and marriage and children and all of these things, are there lines of where you can let people in or not?
It does change in the sense that like over, as your family grows or you get older, like your priorities change, and like the way you want to, like your interests change, like the things I'm drawn to have changed over time. So like a few albums ago, it was like the heaviest, loudest, most complicated stuff we could make, and then the album after that was like basically a pop record. So like in terms of like what I want to do and what I want to get out of it is different. Completely separate from that, we're at a very interesting time in our band as individuals because we experienced a great loss.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to continue doing what we love to do got taken away. Like in our minds, it was almost like done. And
it honestly feels like a divorce for them, I would say. Like when something gets stripped away from you when you want it to continue, it is like a death or a divorce that would give you that type of a feeling that they're expressing here, or having a whole art expression that gets taken away from you that you're not allowed to do. Almost is like what happens to people when like a tyrannical government comes on and all the art has to get destroyed. Like it's a horrible feeling.
There's nothing any of us could do to hide that. Like other people may have even felt it, like nobody could feel it as bad as we could feel it.
No.
Like it's gonna be the worst for us, but they were feeling it too. They're feeling their version of it and feeling bad. And I thought, like for us in this year and in this effort, part of maybe the motivating factor was to
Polga, yeah. Favorite point of view. Point of view.
To show what it looks like to like be like rock bottom and dust yourself off and get up and do it again and go. The only way to get that across would be to actually do it and do it, do it well or do it honorably or do it like in a way that shows your kids like a good example of it, I thought.
After the passing of his longtime friend and collaborator, Shinoda began to process his grief, first with a solo recording addressing his sorrow, and later by working with new creative partners. Ultimately, a conversation with another Linkin Park bandmate paved the way for the group's triumphant rebirth.
Thank God for that. Persevere, Act 3.
What role did the solo record serve in sort of recalibrating you and obviously, I guess eventually creating the space for you to be able to revisit this?
Yeah. It was so I did a record called Post-Traumatic.
Post-Traumatic. Gotta check this one out.
It was a musical like diary of that period of time. Kind of like if you listen to the record, it starts off very, very dark. And then by the end of it, it's lighter. Mm-hmm. It like isn't, like it's not all better, but it's lighter, a lot lighter. And
like going through an episode of post-traumatic stress then.
Went on tour with that and did a bunch of shows, and those shows were
That's
really
cool.
Intended to be like a place for the fans to commune and to see that I'm still here, like to see
that's really cool.
The person that all hope is not lost kind of thing, to make it way more like dramatic than it needs to be. But some people did feel that way. Like some people felt very dramatic they felt very strong feelings, and I did want to like show up for them and for myself in person and do shows.
Just gonna make sure everything's set up still correctly. Ooh, that's very low. Let's throw that way up. Sorry about having such a lower volume on that one. There you go. I'm sure you're going to be able to hear this a lot better now.
You know, that address this stuff head on.
My intuition was telling me.
Being a producer, it's a very broad range. It can mean a broad range of things, from the Pete Rocks and the premieres that are banging on the machines, yes, to the, Rick Rubin's,
yes,
asking.
It's unfortunate questions. That those are the same, that they get grouped into the same word, producer. It's really not the same. There are, like, just within the realm of if for a premiere, a DJ premiere or a Pete Rock, like it's the track, more so than like even a Timberland who is arranging the hook and the shape of the vocals and giving feedback on the shape. And then a big step over into somebody like, Rick Rubin can do those things, but he exists much more now in this other bucket, which is completely different. Rick doesn't push any buttons. He doesn't know how to work that gear. He doesn't care about it, because really his value in the studio has nothing to do with those. Like, you're gonna be much better off if somebody else does those things, because Rick's value is about the big picture, ideas, direction, artistic vision, and voice, like the concept of voice, not the literal voice. In working with him on, what did we do, 3 records with him?
Oh, wow.
He suggested a chord once.
Oh, wow.
It was the 3rd measure of the chorus of Waiting for the End. I can tell you exactly what it was.
Wow.
It was the only time. He doesn't do that. Yeah, but to go backwards, you were asking about producers and things like that. Like, my role, the way I ended up in my role producing this record, for example, has been through learning from the folks, really great folks that we've worked with, getting confident enough, knowing my way around an album enough through working under great people, that I could feel like I could take it on, because I know that I would do a good job. Don't let it be driven by ego. Let it be driven by what I can deliver. Do I doubt myself? I doubt myself all the time. And I think this moment, actually, this year with Linkin Park kind of restarting, is a really great, for me, it's a very proud moment. It's a feeling of success, just in the fact that the band was it was stopped. It was blocked. It was like, it wasn't going anywhere. And we were able, through, hard work and perseverance and good ideas, and a lot of support from really great people who we love, who also had good ideas and put in the work. We were able to, dust ourselves off and try again.
Would you guys like to hear a new song? Something off the new album? Something we haven't played yet?
I think this is the time to do it.
You've touched on.
Wow, can't wait to see them live again.
Obviously, the gravity
Let me know how many times you've
deciding to try to re-engage Linkin Park and to make new music with a new lineup. And what was your sort of path of coming to feel okay with this and then confident in it?
So I'd met Emily in 2019. I met Colin around 2021. And then sometime in probably 22, 23-ish, I remembered having like a breakfast with Joe Hahn, and he and I, like we've kept in touch, but he had like moved to Hawaii. Like we weren't seeing each other that often,
wow.
and we had this really great conversation about what if the band, if there's 100 things to solve to make Linkin Park work again, all unsolved. Like at the end of all of that, what if it's like barely viable enough that we'd be like, I don't know, all traveling together in a van, right? Like if it was just the smallest thing it can be, that the idea that, is it really about the music? Is it really about the brotherhood and the like getting it together for the right reasons? I think I said, like, what if we all had to share a bus and like play like midday on a festival lineup and whatever, which is like a respectable way to be, but like for us that would be very small compared to what we do.
Yes.
And he, without even blinking, was like, yeah, of course that'd be fine. Like, I'd love that. And he went on about like, the time we spend together and making great stuff. And it was so inspiring. Like he was so focused and he was so like centered. And I left that conversation just being like, oh, I think it's different. That felt way different than anything in recent years. And I talked to Dave, our bass player. I was like, hey, Joe and I had this thing, and he was really excited. And we started just resolving to spend more time together, even if we didn't play a single note. If we just sat.
Oh, wow. Polgi, this is going to be your first concert, getting to see them. Well, you're going to have the time of your life, and live music isn't honestly for everyone, and the whole crowd and the whole scene isn't for everyone, as we're seeing with the guitarist here as well, who has someone else perform for them live. So that's totally respectable as well, Polgi. And if you guys have been here all the way till the end, I really appreciate it. This is probably leaning into almost 3 hours by the time this is done, this live stream, so I really appreciate the time you spent. And if you're here on your own time outside of the live stream in the future, I really appreciate it too. I hope you've been having a good time.
Around and just daydreamed about it. That would be okay. And it started there.
At what point did you propose adding Emily to the mix? And
oh, that came way later. I'd be like, yeah, we're just screwing around. Like, we're just gonna write today. There's gonna be a bunch of different people in the room. Some of them are gonna be from my band, but other people are not. And we're just gonna make cool stuff and see what happens. And sometimes, because there were no guardrails on it, it just went somewhere fucking terrible because we didn't establish like what it was for, because we didn't commit to what it was for. I didn't say anything about, officially anything. And I think I was feeling it a little bit, but I was curious and I didn't want to like push anybody in any direction. And then I think one of the other guys said, what do you think? What do you think about these two? Right. Like they seem to click with us better than the rest. And I was like, yeah, I think that's right.
When I was young, I thought success, was the same thing that like most people think of. And then after, we had our first album did better than anything we could have imagined. Like there literally couldn't have been a better outcome in terms of like numbers and things like that. And after that, I had to change my calibration, because it's not on its own, that type of success isn't going to be fulfilling. So it became a lot more about artistic expression and finding like almost like the true nature of a thing that you're making. Like if you're writing a lyric and you can capture the truth in that lyric, if it's just the truest or the realest or the most authentic thing that you can write or make or say, that's a version for me. That's a version of success.
Well, yeah, if you come in winning titles and awards right out of the get-go, I mean, you're going to have to recalibrate what you think success is to be able to keep pushing it, because if your success was just to, get that car or that house, that already happened after the first album, and you already had the best music that year, which is incredible. I remember 2000. 2000 was a huge year for me. It's the year that I moved myself to the place where I'm actually currently living now. So here we go.
You guys have a thing, and a thing that people love very deeply and have, huge amounts of emotional investment in. And I guess, as the band has progressed, increasingly there's probably a tension between scratching the itch that that they want scratched, and pushing things forward in a way that perhaps makes them uncomfortable, but is maybe more creatively fulfilling for you, or ultimately more fulfilling for them.
Well, with the new album, with From Zero, that was the ultimate test of that. It was like, how do we? There are all of these different elements in play. There's
2025 this year
people
now.
that loved our first two records and didn't love anything after that. There's people that were along for the entire ride and preferred the more adventurous stuff. There are people who are potential fans that have never liked the band, but with the new lineup, they would. There's also then the aspect of Chester and Rob who are not in the new lineup, and how do we treat that? How do we do it respectfully to them, for them? How do we do that while maintaining our new members, Emily and Colin, and lifting them up and giving them the best platform to succeed from? It was friggin' insane. That's just on the creative side.
Oh my God! Look at that picture of Emily and Mike. That is the one right there. Look at that emotion and personality and connection and chemistry already.
And then things like marketing and album release and blah blah blah. It's been
beautiful.
This almost impossible puzzle of things to worry about.
Did you have anxiety going into this process?
Yeah. The whole time I was turning gray and losing hair. No, I there were definitely big moments when I was like, are we doing the right thing? I don't know. But honestly, I think the music I feel like the music got me through it. I feel like when we made this, as we were making the songs, every time I really sat and I listened to what we were making,
felt so right.
It felt reassuring. It felt like, this has got the DNA of Linkin Park in it. Even though it's different, I know it's there. You don't have to, I don't have to guess. And so at the end of the day, the big question, the challenge really was, how do we present it? I know it's there, but in order for someone else to realize it, they're going to have to give it a chance. So how do we set up the best version of an invitation to come give it a chance?
Whether it was with Fort Minor or your own solo record in 2019, you have proven that you can do it on your own and that there's an appetite from the fans for that. I guess what was animating your wantedness to solve this very fraught emotionally and also...
One thing I wish they mentioned a bit is the Reanimation album. Even though it's just a remix on the first album, I thought that would be a cool thing to elaborate, and I wish there was some interviewers that would bring up Reanimation still. Because bringing everything else up, that's the one thing I have not heard in any interview yet, is talking about this.
Potentially a dangerous intellectual challenge.
The way the fan base reacted to it was the core fans of mine were very excited about it. There were people there who wanted it to wanted to hear it and wanted to me to keep doing it. But what I also realized is that there is a correlation between the actual artistry and the actual quality, in a sense, of the things that we would make together as a band. There's a magic to that. part of that is the group, like the team, and the shared interest and the shared ideas and the camaraderie and the fun we have.
Not science.
All of those things. The scariest part about it is, okay, if we, you know, I know that thing is special, and I've done it with, and I've tried to do it with people that are not Linkin Park, and forget like the audience at large's reaction to it. I listen to it and I go, it's missing something. It's not all there. Like I don't, it doesn't come out of me the like right way. And part of it is just because I've got a shorthand. I've got a like a understanding, a creative, like chemistry with my bandmates that I don't have with anybody else.
Wow.
It's natural. It's effortless. Well, not effortless, but easier. and that is, it's almost like I did my. You ever heard about like Aboriginal?
Oh yeah,
people like doing a walkabout.
Mm-hmm.
I did my walkabout. I saw things, and I came back and I went, yeah, this thing where I started, this thing is unique.
It sure is.
I thought it was unique.
But it's way
that
more
was a
unique
guess.
than you thought.
And I've walked all over, and I realized that I didn't see it anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I saw great things. I saw people that are incredible. Mm-hmm. But when I do it with them,
there's nothing like
it's not incredible.
Take your time
and
get
when
it
I come
right.
here, it's incredible.
Wow. Mike Shinoda, take your time and get it right. That was an incredible interview. You know what? Let's ride this out. Everyone, thank you so much. I really appreciate y'all taking time with me. Again, we just did Linkin Park, Mike Shinoda, and Emily Armstrong, new album from Zero, Chester Bennington from the Zach Sang Show. And then we finished off with Mike Shinoda on creating and reinventing Linkin Park, plus his creative evolution from Complex. This is an amazing time. If you want to see more Linkin Park come down the rabbit hole, please like and comment down which way I should move forward. I have not heard any albums in full past Minutes to Midnight and up to From Zero. So anything between there, I would definitely love to check out. And again, From Zero is probably the third best album from Linkin Park, I would have to say. But I know you guys probably know the better placing for that if you've checked all the albums out as well. And if you guys enjoyed these interviews and you want to see me do more of these live streams, please let me know in the comments below as well. I hope you guys had a great time. We are now exiting the rabbit hole, folks. Peace and love. God bless y'all. Dun, dun, dun.